हाँ डॉक्टर साहब, चक्रवर्ती साहब, हेलो। डॉक्टर एनवी के, हेलो।
चक्रवर्ती साहब आपका म्यूटेड है। हाँ अभी ठीक है। कैन यू हियर मी? वी कांट हियर यू। वी कांट हियर यू। I think this microphone volume I think is kept very lower side. You can increase that one. No, still we cannot hear you. You just adjust your microphone, otherwise everything is okay.
Speaker problem with the speaker or?
I think so, yeah. No. You just see that your speaker, what is the volume status. Otherwise everything is fine. We can see you nicely.
Even video is also.
You are looking much younger today.
But video is fine, video and mic both are.
Mic is not working for you. No, we can't hear you, sir. Unfortunately. No.
Dr. Chotapada, are you getting some response from him?
No. Audio of me is very clear. I think he switched off. Now I think he will be rebooting, I think. कल आपका मीटिंग कैसा हुआ? Actually yesterday I had a meeting, that's why I could not join. कैसा हुआ मीटिंग आपका?
ठीक था एक्चुअली। वो सेमिनार है, आई थिंक लिंक है, वो सेमिनार का सबको नहीं दिया होगा मालूम, आई डोंट नो।
अब ठीक है?
ठीक 3 day सेमिनार हो गया।
Now you are able to listen?
Yes,
Yes,
yes.
sir.
Now everything
Yes,
is okay.
yes,
Yes, yes.
Listen as well as we are going on.
No, I was
Video pass.
yeah, I was viewing other Zoom conducted by our division.
Oh,
Sir, namaskar.
division.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Dr. Adar sir. Good afternoon, sir.
Mohan, Nabanshu.
Again, we are meeting.
Yes, it's good to keep meeting.
Yes.
No, but I like the way you conducted this year's. It was very good participation, very well organized.
Mm.
Some of the talks were very interesting. Very
Yes,
interesting.
डॉक्टर साहब आपका टॉक तो बहुत अच्छा था.
मेरा तो ऐसा
As
ही
usual, as usual.
आप तो ऐसा ही तारीफ करना आपका.
नहीं, as usual.
Hi, Abhijit, group leader today.
Abhijit, how are you?
You muted. You unmute your system, Abhijit.
Sorry,
Yes.
yeah. Good afternoon to all of you. I'm doing well, thank you.
Good afternoon. Yeah.
Oh, good afternoon.
Namaskar, namaskar.
What is the time now in California?
Right now it's 2:30 in the morning, 3:30 in the morning.
Oh God.
3:30, half an hour. 12 hours actually. 11:30.
Yeah.
You had a good sleep? You had a good sleep?
Yeah, always good sleep. There is no stress at all.
Okay.
Dr. Pandey, yesterday I was calling you
Yes.
to compliment
But
you.
I have not received any call from you. No missed call, nothing, no information.
No, probably communication gap, network.
I don't know. There is no call from you.
Last evening around 8 o'clock.
Huh?
Around 8 o'clock.
Yesterday?
Yesterday night evening.
No. I was here only.
Namaskar, Dr. Rao. Namaskar. Dr. Rao, you have to unmute. Not yet.
Fine.
Hi, Guru.
Fine.
Hi.
Somebody sent me an article about American Army how to sleep.
Eco.
The tips for very quick sleeping. My voice is getting
Yeah, getting echoed.
Eco.
There's another device.
Maybe I will exit and come back.
Hi, Guru. How are you?
Fine. We are 5 minutes before, huh?
Yeah, before time.
Yeah. How are you?
Hardly 2 minutes now. Yeah, now you're back, Dr. Rathod.
Yes. Now no echo.
Yeah, now no echo.
Madam,
Hi,
namaskar.
Ananta.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Namaste, sir.
How are you?
Fine, sir.
She's back in the office.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
today is a working day.
Today is International Sleeping Day. So on that occasion, I got an article which described as to how to get the sleep in the fastest mode, and that is a trick which is taught to the American Army, and so there are 4 things they said for sleeping. You need to have a bed. You need to have will to sleep, and then you have to relax your body and take all the thoughts out of your mind. And then there is a process they explained as to how to take the thoughts out of your mind, because the thoughts are such thing that man chanchal hai to wo kuch aata rehta hai. So of course Dr. NVK is a master. But still they say, I mean, there are a few techniques they described, and they said that's how you can keep these thoughts away, and then in a couple of minutes you are knocked down. So that is International Sleep Day.
Very nice.
Yeah,
Yes.
on
We are
clearing-
waiting still now another 5 minutes. People will
Okay.
join.
Okay, Dr.
Nine
Navan.
people join now, as on now.
Okay, Dr. Navanshu.
I just wanted to kind of share my thoughts on clearing your thoughts. So there is a schedule in pranayama where you basically deep breathe before you go to bed. If you slow down your breathing, and again, I'm a data guy, so when we are kind of born, we breathe at 36 times in a minute, and if you can, usual breathing is between 18 and 36, depending on how stressed you are. If you can lower it down to almost 12 breathings per minute, then your brain automatically will slow down, and then you'll basically go to bed sleep very quickly.
I do that whenever I'm not getting the sleep, and particularly because of my ailment, I need to get up at least 4 times a night. So therefore, when I return from the bathroom and I try to do that pranayama, and I get sleep, because that's a very good exercise. So pranayama has a great potential for healing and other things, way of life.
Yeah, and yesterday I was talking to a doctor, and he basically was saying that we have not explored the territory of kind of inner brain, and that one of the reasons is obviously the pharmaceutical companies won't be able to sell drugs after that. But that's one of the medical sciences that kind of an avenue that hasn't been explored.
Some of the Indian traditions, and I always quote, I think 2016 or 2017, the Nobel Prize in Biology was given to 3 people, and one was Canadian, one was from Europe, and then third was from America. One of the researcher, he came to India some time ago and noticed that the rural folk do not eat after sunset, particularly Jains and a certain community. So he thought that there must be some science behind it, and he tried to explore that. And then the gut biome, basically, if you do Google, you'll find that research on the gut biota. And so from the lips to the anus, entire gut, we have. Hi, Dr. Gupta. How are you? Namaskar, namaskar. So there's a lot of microorganisms, and microorganisms that discharge a lot of functions, and some of them do direct, because in the process of digestion, you have mechanical grinding, chemical, and then physiological digestion, and then microbes. At times, they're byproducts of their physiological processes are a very good. Somewhere they act as catalysts for enzymatic reactions and other physiological and digestive processes. So they are basically good and bad microbes, and for a healthy person, the percentage of good microbes are larger than that of bad. We have both of them. It's a combination of them. At times when there is a gastritis or those kind of disturbances, the bad microbes, they ride over the good one and things like that. So that's a balance between them. So what they discovered is that like our computer language 0 and 1, they have a small memory, and their memory acts upon the presence and absence of sunlight. And the moment there is sunlight is cut off, they take rest, and dinast mazdoor mast. काम करना बंद कर देते हैं. They sleep for the period of darkness. So when they sleep, the digestive support which we obtain through these biomes is not available to us. So therefore, it is always, I mean, the kind of knowledge he took from a basic Indian practice, and they got the Nobel Prize. Very wonderful.
Yeah.
Sir, what I feel, with your due permission, we can start.
Right.
And then people will be joining. We are expecting around 20 people, even also from Sri Lanka and other country also. So we can start, and simultaneously, I think that when people will be joining, we can make a round of introductions. But we can start now. Very good evening to all of you, and welcome to today's core group meeting on South Asian Forum on Agrometeorology. And the theme of this meeting is slightly extended. The theme will be build capacity in ICT program management, and also build such cadre and mentor them for ensuring continuity of agromet success and innovation sustenance. I am pleased to inform you that earlier 5 core group meetings organized during almost last 1 month. First meeting was held on present status and existing strategies for meeting the need, gaps, requirement, etc. for operational agromet advisory services in South Asian countries. On 13th of February, the meeting was moderated as a group leader by Dr. Shantanu Kumar Bal, Project Coordinator, Agrometeorology, Central Research Institute for Dryland Agriculture, Hyderabad, India. Second meeting was held on administration, constitution, bylaws, finance, etc. for SAFOAM. On 20th of February, the meeting was moderated as group leader by Professor A.M. Sheikh, former Vice Chancellor, Anand Agriculture University, Gujarat, India. Third meeting was held on utilization of satellite-derived product in agromet advisory services for South Asian countries. On 27th of February, the meeting was moderated as group leader by Dr. Bimal Kumar Bhattacharya, Group Director and Scientist G, Space Applications Center, ISRO, Ahmedabad, Gujarat. Fourth meeting was held on web portal for South Asia Forum on Agriculture Meteorology on 6th of March, moderated by myself. Fifth meeting was held on new dimension of agromet advisory services in hill region in South Asian countries on 13th March. The meeting was moderated as group leader by Dr. Archana Shrestha, Deputy Director General Meteorological Forecasting Division, Department of Hydrology and Meteorology, Kathmandu, Nepal. All the above meetings were very successful, and a number of distinguished personalities across South Asian region participated and contributed on the respective theme. Minutes of the meeting are under preparation and shared with all of you in due course of time. Today, we are really thankful to all of you and those who will be participating subsequently for wholeheartedly support the formation and ongoing activities of South Asia Forum on Agriculture Meteorology. Today, we are supposed to, a distinguished advisor like Dr. Lakshman Singh Rathod, Dr. Akhilesh Gupta, and we have also invited DG IMD, Mrityunjay Mahapatraji, and also G. Srinivasan from RIMES, and Director General of Meteorology from Sri Lanka, Mr. A. Karunanayake. Then we called Dr. V. Gita Lakshmi, and also another important person from Sri Lanka, from BVR, Punnavardhene. He is a Principal Scientist, Director, Natural Resource Management Center. So we are hopefully that they will be joining with us shortly. Today, we are very happy also with us Abhijit Basu, founder and CEO SmartX Cognitive, California, USA. Before handing over the next course of the meeting and moderating the meeting, I would like to give a brief introduction of Mr. Abhijit Basu. Abhijit is a technology entrepreneur in the enterprise software as a service, remote sensing and sensor space, working on communication and climate resiliency challenges like soil moisture and air pollution. If you use a smart device like your phone on pad, then you have used his technology contribution. His path-breaking work on surface capacity touchscreen with Tyco has made uh, touchscreen universal and enabling billions of lights and devices every day. He has been instrumental in making WebEx, now Cisco WebEx, a leader in web conferencing long before Zoom, an offshoot of WebEx team, became poster child of COVID-19. He also has persistently worked on air, soil, and water quality impact on human health, and his team is working on some path-breaking solution to mitigate climate change impact on human and crop health risks. Obijit brings his global large-scale ICT implementation experience to this group and is looking forward to work with cross-functional experts from South Asia to make it possible for our farmers to continue their occupation successfully in spite of changes the entire humanity is challenged with. I'm sure under the presence of all the honorable advisors, all the esteemed member and Basu, this meeting will be highly productive and useful. Over to Abhijit Basu.
Thank you, Navanshu. Thank you, everybody, for joining us this afternoon. So, and thank you, Navanshu, for making the introduction. So, I just have a couple of comments before we start, and then I'll let most of you who have the ground experience to kind of make us aware of what are the challenges and how ICT can help, and what are the ICT initiatives that might help the whole cause. So my take on ICT is it's an enabler, and it's basically a tool. Like any other tool, it can help only if we pick the right tool to use. And as with any other tool, it has to be in capable hands with the ability to actually use the tool to its potential. One of the things that I have realized over the years is that like everything that happens in life, the people you pick to actually manage or kind of take advantage of these technologies are as important as the technology itself. I've worked on many multi-million-dollar projects where we have succeeded and we have failed. There hasn't been a project where it's throughout success when it's ICT implementation, and it has two pieces to it, as a technology and people. So with that, I would highly suggest that the learnings that we all bring, we always keep in mind that the people who actually run these projects, their ability to work with the technologies that exist or the technologies that we use will always result to the actual outcome. So if we are able to consistently maintain the people capacity and their ability to control the ICT technologies to derive the outcomes, then the potential of the outcomes is kind of enhanced drastically. With that being said, I would highly recommend that if you have any questions around the latest and greatest technologies available out there, I can certainly contribute. But I think what is really needed, and what we call in our business world as customer experience, we need to understand that piece very well. Like our farmers are our customers. Our people who are helping the customer, which is the farmers in the field, are our customers. And the people who are actually going to use the technologies, they are also our customers, because we as a group here, we are the kind of, I would say, the think tank which is putting together these ideas. Eventually the people who will come and use this technology may not have everything that we have discussed. So how do we enable them to understand what has gone beyond and behind what they're going to go do on the field? So, which I call is connecting the strategy to the actual implementation. Once you make people aware of why they're part of this bigger scheme and what kind of value they add, where they fit in, that's when you get people really motivated and able to contribute. They're enabled, they're empowered, and they're able to do the things that we want to have them do. So with that, I would like Dr. Rathore to kind of help us with the initiative and give his thoughts, because he has seen a lot on the field, and kind of help us to understand how does he see ICT can help the entire agricultural initiative that we are trying to take here.
Thank you, Abhijit. I think you have touched billions of lives, and we see, and so also most of us, and directly or indirectly throughout our career, been associated with weather, climate, agriculture, and that is the subject which is really, I would call that there's an element of social service. So even while we were doing service and we were paid for that, we were doing social service because we were helping the food security and livelihood of farmers. The arena which we are currently trying to address is the using the meteorological information for enhancing the farm output as well as securing a better livelihood for the farmers. That is overall, as we all know. In the process, there are new challenges which you all of us know about it, and but there are three things where ICT is very critical. Very critical. The first and foremost is the ICT tools related to organization of information pertaining to the weather, climate, crop, soil, pest, disease. So basically more related to data management system, but drawing information from this data which is relevant to the decision-making process. That is aspect number one. Aspect number two is because now we are in India operating at the block level, and in Bangladesh we are operating at the district level, and so also in Nepal and rest of the countries the service is in infancy. But we have to do hand holding, and we will bring them to the desired level in much shorter period as compared to India, where we struggled a lot to come to this stage. The biggest challenge there is because now with the given information, we need to prepare the agromet advisory bulletins. And we need to grasp the entire information of the soil, of the crop, of the pest disease, of weather and the climate to derive information which is based on the crop-weather relationship. And some of it is fairly well understood, some is not understood, but we have a broad contours of knowledge available at our disposal and usable. Now, so the challenge is how to prepare these bulletins using certain tools and kind of in a semi-automated mode. And that is where the ICT can again help us in pooling the data resources, information resources, and also the knowledge resources. And the third thing is information dissemination. This is the more weightage of ICT for information dissemination because we have been deploying ICT tool, most of us. But the user requirement and users' aspirations are also enhancing over the period. And therefore, it's a big challenge to meet their requirement, and which is very dynamic. And they tend to ask questions very smartly, and more often than not, when they ask question, then only our value of information is higher. Rather than if we keep pumping information, even at times there are good information, it is lost in the bus. So that again is a big challenge as to how to really have an effective two-way communication, rather multi-way communication, wherein the different agencies who are generating informations also come as a group and talk to the user group. So these are three broader areas I would request you to throw more light, and then subsequently obtain inputs from. We have very senior people, and they have really spent their lifetime doing service. But actually, we are more of a kind of traditional package. When we started, nobody was touching numerical weather prediction NWP products, and Dr. Gupta will throw more light on that. When we first started, people were making jokes of us that nobody will do that. But see the scenario, and now with ease with which the people are using that information with confidence has manifold increased. And so I stop here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Rathore. And I think you touched upon the points very lucidly, and it's very easy to kind of figure the traditional and the contemporary are still talking about the same thing, where basically we're talking about information is an enabler, but the pull, which is a customer experience, is more important. So if we can kind of focus from third to first as a point, I think you will get more sense of the customer. That's how we kind of, in the business world at least, we look at it. And I think that is the biggest lesson that I've learned since I've left my school, to understand that it's not about me who is trying to do something, but it's about the person I'm trying to do something about, and what is their request. And with that, I would ask Dr. Akhilesh Gupta to kind of present his thoughts and suggestions.
Thank you, Abhijit. First of all, many congratulations for doing your great job. And as Dr. Rathore mentioned, that in fact he's the, I would say, father of agrometeorology services that we started in the IND and then NCR and then forward. And I've been his associate, and therefore, having worked closely, although I'm not an agrometeorologist, but working with Dr. Rathore, I have learned the trick of the trade. And see, we started from 5 units, and now we are talking about dung and other things. So that expansion has happened in 2 ways. As Dr. Rathore mentioned, that it is not just that the technology of producing the information has changed, but it is technology of consuming the information has changed, transformed like anything. And both are relevant in this context. See, look at the way we had been preparing the initially we were preparing the agroadvisory bulletins in NCR. They were in fact based on the forecast that used to be available in a very generic form. Then came the NCR product, that the TAT products from the numerical forecast. And as Dr. Rathore mentioned, it was an era that the core meteorologist had not believed it. And so the only people who believed this forecast were the people who are producing the forecast, and not the So there was so much of, I recall that, we in 97, when we made a presentation to the program implementation committee chaired by Secretary, entire Andy said this is all trash forecast and let's not use it. And see, from then to now, the dependence on NWP has gone like now in Andy, nobody looks at this synoptic product. Everybody is only following the NWP. So transformation is always painful. Sometimes transformation is not acceptable by the society. We were the part of transformation that I feel very happy about. And this transformation has led to so much of change and everything. Now, ICT, you see, again, this is the one end of technology production or information production. The other end was the information dissemination or its dissemination to the consumer. Again, we had so much of challenges. We used to send this information to our nodal officers. Some nodal officers used to go to farmers in a very, very slow and in a very I would say in stages, and we always used to lose time and all kind of things. Then came the technology where you could have done it. That in fact, I would say the big change that has happened in the entire technology for information dissemination is in the mobile. We started from what it was Greek phone to clamshell phone to candy bar phone to satellite phone to PDA, and then came smartphone and now the even all phones became touch screen. This made a lot of change. We used to have SMS. In fact, it started much later. The SMS to now going for all kind of social media way, and the kind of tele-density. I remember in 2003 when we started, the tele-density, in fact, was in India was only 6%. 6% tele-density to now, it's really 67%, 68% tele-density. Shows that so much penetration has taken place into the in the rural areas. That makes all the difference, because now dissemination has the tools for dissemination is available. What is required is right production of the product and taking that product to the next level. Therefore, I think this is the right opportune time when you can go to it. So now there is another technology, big technology, I would say, is waiting for this sector to adopt, and that is the AI. So now the AI, ML, and the industry 4.0, all these are coming quickly. In the next 2 years, you will find they will completely, take over the entire communication. Now, in fact, the quantum communication is coming very fast. So the way we used to think, always the communication used to be thought in a, that you pass the information from, in a way that it goes from one end to another end. But quantum communication will take it in a different level. It creates a multiplicity of the information and create a route which goes, with multiple kind of information interacting with each other and then reaching out to the user. So there's a huge kind of opportunity for this community where we can. And so I think I would stop here and say that so much is actually waiting for us, and we must then therefore make ourselves ready for adopting those technologies and going forward in the ICT application for agrometeorology. Thank you very much.
Perfect, perfect, and that is exactly kind of ties very well to what Dr. Rathod said, that if we are able to build the data structures properly and able to have very verifiable data, then AI becomes that more kind of powerful, because AI builds on the data that we have and the data that kind of help AI learn how things are done. So,
If Abhijit,
so
you permit, I can just have some thoughts on to that what Dr. Akhilesh Gupta and Dr. Rathod has mentioned.
sure, yeah, please.
Thing is that, you know, I mean, ICT, if you take it, if you go back 10 years back, the perception was totally different. My involvement and I mean our colleagues' involvement is that, you know, when we have about to start the SMS, because government system, there was no SMS system into the farming community. Then, you know, some Reuters market light, somebody has come as a private, and they agreed, and they said, okay, we will send it to. But when we are approaching to the government of India, they said no, public-private partnership is not a very feasible solution. But embarking onto that issue or like that, we could convince. And in IMD, we started with 500 farmers in 5 states. Today it is so many millions of like that. So in ICT, as it is evolving, the perception also changes into that. Today's meeting, I just want to highlight that if you see your, title, I just categorize into 3 parts. One is that ICT, one is the mentor, and another is agromet success. So it is the 3 level of perception you are having. First of that thing, whenever we are talking about the SAFOAM, we could think of that Myanmar also. What is Myanmar is doing today? Whether they are having any ICT into that, whether Nepal is having any ICT, and the central part of this SAFOAM is that how we can share your ideas or like that. And somebody Sri Lanka has joined now. So we will be discussing that there are 2 ICT. One is a generic ICT and another is evolving ICTs. Now in India, we are having both. We are having now. So we have to address, or we have to hear from others also, that how this kind of strategy which we have achieved, how this can be shared, and what could be the new strategy, and also who could be the mentor. Because some of the Myanmar and others, they don't have even today, the system is there, but how we can improvise to have the mentor or like that. And agromet success, you know, as on today, which is visible, is very good. You know, even also in India, I know whenever we went to, Minister of Arts Science, they are asking what is the success. Then on that which they are approving the next course of money. So in India, we have a number of success. Bangladesh also is a success. So how we can replicate the success? So if we can, whatever the title you have suggested, you know, if we can discuss, and if we can share our knowledge to within ourselves and that neighboring country, that makes a lot of sense to your topic, right? But both of the distinguished mentioned, this is the base of this thing, and that is why the agromet today we are here today. Over to Abhijit.
Thank you, Namanshu. Before we kind of get into the kind of long discussion, Namanshu, would you mind if any other kind of audience here would like to kind of add their comments before we kind of get into this particular topical conversations? Because I'm meeting most of the people for the first time, so I wouldn't know their background. So if you could help me with that, that'd be awesome.
I think now we can start with the round of introduction. Okay, 15 people have joined. Okay. If you then you can discuss, then it will be okay, right?
Okay.
I'm starting with me. I am Dr. Navanshu Chattopadhyay. I worked as a former Deputy Director General in IMD. and also worked with WMO and with World Bank. And still I'm working with Bangladesh and Bhutan. And one of the assignment recently I have received, that is that President of International Society of Agrometeorology, where we are working throughout the world of agrometeorology. So I'm committed to this subject of agrometeorology nationally, regionally, and globally. Over to you.
Thank you. I would open up the forum, and anybody wants to kind of go ahead and introduce themselves. Would be very helpful.
Yeah, this is Dr. NVK Chakravarti. I have been agrometeorologist from 1970, working in Indian Agriculture Research Institute, New Delhi. I retired in 2009 April, but still, due to the courtesy Dr. Rathod, Dr. Navansh, and then Dr. Akhilesh, I have been actively engaged in the research work of agrometeorology. Thank you.
Mr. Rao.
Myself, GGS and Roy. I worked in ICR throughout my career, right from 1975 to 2010. I retired as a project coordinator on ECRIP on agrometeorology, All India Coordinated Research Project on agrometeorology, located at headquartered at Central Research Institute for Direct Agriculture, Hyderabad. And after 2010, I was given DST gave a project for 2 years to write a book. I wrote a book on droughts management in agriculture, and afterwards I served as an expert or advisor in some National Collateral Management Limited, since they were providing the weather data for insurance or reinsurances. So they have almost established throughout India more than 5,000 of automated weather stations and providing necessary information to the insurance agents and to the different state governments. And since last since 1919, I took a retirement, almost a retirement, and enjoying my retired life. And of course, in any time, any help or maybe I'm giving my services to them. Thank you.
Thank you. Ananta, you want to go ahead?
Yeah. Myself is Dr. Ananta Vasist. I'm working as a principal scientist in Indian Institute of Agriculture Research Institute, IRI, New Delhi. And I have more than 23 years research experience as well as teaching and extension work. I am working in this project, GKMS, Grameen Krishi Mausam Seva. In this, we are preparing this agromet advisory service, and also working in the project crop weather interaction. In that, we are developing different models, forecasting models, also using different techniques, just like recently machine learning techniques, some statistical model like that. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Do you have
Pratima.
Yeah. So good evening, everybody, sir. I'm Dr. Pratima, working as a principal scientist in State Agriculture University of Andhra Pradesh. And I have experience with this agromet advisory services since 20 years. I'm working here. Along with this, we are giving some forecasting models as well as we are doing some crop weather relationship studies and some crop modeling studies, sir. So totally, I have some 20 years of experience with the farmers, where we started with zonal bulletin to now we came to giving block level bulletin, and the farmers are feeling very happy after introduction of our SMS services, and but still today also it is not reaching up to the level at village level, sir. But in Andhra Pradesh now, with our honorable Chief Minister's introductory part of this RP case, like at Gram Panchayat level, we are disseminating our agro advisory services, and it is reaching the farmers, sir. But still there is a lot of lacuna in this to reach the farmers, sir. But farmers are enjoying with our forecast, and they are realizing our forecast as well as advisory part, sir. But still it has to reach a lot of people at the nook and corners of villages also, sir. Thank you, sir.
very good.
Nachiketa.
Yeah, thank you. Myself, Dr. Nachiketa Acharya. Currently, I'm in International Research Institute in Columbia University called IRI, working here almost 5 years now. So first of all, thank you, Dr. Chattopadhyay, for inviting me for this forum. And I still remember when I started my career in 2008 end or 9, I was a project staff of a big project called ERFS, External Range Forecast System, which is a visionary by Dr. Rathore, Dr. Gupta, Dr. Chattopadhyay, and Professor UC Mohanty. And from that onwards, I started working as a climate scientist, making the climate information, which is tailored to the agriculture and disseminated almost everywhere in India. And that was like my start. And then I became like a statistical climatologist expert in S2S forecast, machine learning, and those kind of things. Recently, I'm in IRI, and through IRI, I'm active member in SASCOF and ASEAN-COF and those kind of RCOFs forum, where my contribution is actually improving the capacity building of Met Service, especially on the forecasting and how to tailor the forecasting information to the farmer, because there is a gap between the product which we prepared and which farmer need. So that's one of the thing. And also recently closely working with Dr. Chattopadhyay over Bangladesh, because we had a big project in Bangladesh where I worked with Dr. Chattopadhyay and try to improve the BMD's capacity on that. And also like working with almost 8 or 9 countries in Africa right now, almost in the same way, like how to improve their capacity, especially on the subseasonal forecast, which is hugely important for the agriculture point of view. Instead of having which category of rainfall will be in the season, it's very important like when the rain will be started or when the wet spell or dry spell. So in that kind of experience, I think like I can really help in this forum to share my experience, especially like what the limitation of the forecast and how we can tailor the information to the farmer. On that note, thank you very much, and thanks.
Professor Pandey.
Good afternoon. Myself, Dr. Vyas Pandey. I was professor and head of Department of Agriculture Meteorology at Anand Agriculture University, Anand, Gujarat. I had I have about 38 years of experience in the field of agriculture meteorology, but I was associated with a GKMS and project and AICRP and agrometeorology for about more than 20 years at Anand Center. And we worked on agro-advisory service, even climate risk management schemes which are using extended edge weather forecast. We also worked with a space application center, ISRO Ahmedabad, for soil moisture estimation, crop identification, crop acreage estimation. And I retired from University service in 2017. And as a emeritus scientist from ICR, I worked at Anand for 3 years, in which I worked on a use of crop simulation model for yield prediction, as well as to study the impact of climate change on different crops of the Gujarat. Besides this, we formed one society, Association of Agrometeorologists at Anand, which is having more than 1,800 like members spread across the globe. And we are publishing a journal of agrometeorology. It is first one of the best journal being published by Agromet Society in India, having Thomson-Reuters impact factor also. So presently, I am president of the society, and that's what we are serving for the scientific community. As far, of course, it is just introduction, but later on, whatever points will come, we will discuss. Thank you.
Dr. Sharad Premlal from Sri Lanka.
Yeah.
Sharad.
Thank you. Good evening to everybody. So my name is Premalal, retired Director General of retired Director General of Meteorology, Sri Lanka. So actually, I participated most of the committee, that starting from the beginning, So actually, what I understand is very interesting. So you are talking, that different field about agromet advisories and that dissemination, etc. So when I talk about myself, actually I I started my career in 1988 as a meteorologist, and I joined to the agromet section in med department in 2000. And since then I worked as a different I mean that category of meteorologist, agrometeorologist, and deputy director and director at the agrometeorology section. So actually we started to disseminate agromet bulletin in 2014. And now med department and agriculture department collaboratively issue agromet bulletin to the farmers. Actually, what I understand, that now I am joined joined to the WFP World Food Program for the similar, I mean that similar kind of project, last mile climate service, that is to disseminate agromet advisories to the farmer level. So what I understand, so still most of the farmers do not receive agromet advisories or even met advisories, I mean that met forecast and others, due to the incapacity on ICT, or they don't know how to get this one. So I think this forum will be very much benefit for most of the expert to improve, most of the country especially, to improve their ICT capacity to disseminate actually not only the disseminate, even that to develop agromet advisories, what farmer need, that is the important part actually. So we are developing on that agromet advisories, met advisories, and so on. So but that we need to develop that specific bulletins for the farmers point of view. That is the important one. I think that after this discussion, it will be able to get that more information to develop enhance that ICT capacity for agromet advisories in Sri Lanka. Thank you very much.
Professor Sanjay Vanzari.
Good afternoon, all. Good evening to all my senior friends, rather gurus. I'm Dr. Sanjay Vanzari, retired as a head of this agromet division at Dr. PDKV Akola, Vidarbha, in India. And I have worked with all these projects what Dr. Vyaspande has already narrated and just I want to share my own experience that regarding start of this agro advisory in particularly India and our Vidarbha region. Nobody was interested, only Dr. Rathod sir and Chattopadhyay sir was insisting, Vanzari, we have to go and reach all the extreme farmers so that we can exercise all this in a proper way. And that was a first step, and that is now well established, and regular messages are being given to farmers regarding right from onset of monsoon, any aberrant conditions, and that is being, and I have retired in 2019 and associated with all other activities related to university, but now not doing any job and having settled at Pune. Thank you, sir.
Now, Anshu, you are muted.
Yeah, sorry. So, though we know Dr. Lakshman Singh Rathod and Akhilesh Gupta, everybody in India, very familiar face. But as the current participants are there, I will request both of them just give a brief introduction to you, to all of us. To Akhilesh Gupta, Dr. Akhilesh Gupta.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. So I am Akhilesh Gupta. I am currently as advisor and head of the climate change program of the Government of Science and Technology, Government of India. Of course, I have contributed a bit of my, time in the agrometeorology. but fundamentally, I'm a weather forecaster and work in weather forecasting and even including the NWP models. I would point out the thing that I think I must compliment that Dr. Rathore and Dr. Navanshu are taking lead in setting up this SAFOAM, and I'm sure this, in fact, this is going to be a very important, I would say, association which will contribute in a big way in the region. I think the three areas that it must contribute. It's already, in fact, doing wonderful job in organizing events and interaction taking place. But maybe we, as COVID goes, we might need some physical meetings and also capacity building program can be jointly organized with different participation with different countries, and the best practices in the operational areas can be shared. I think I am as I represent the Department of Science and Technology, I would like to say that we can support such initiative if it is organized and can financially also contribute. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Sir, Dr. Sir.
Thank you. I'm Rathore, former DG IMD, and currently assisting the World Bank in South Asia on themes like agriculture, weather, climate, water, and disaster management. So these are 5 areas, and we are working right from Afghanistan up to Myanmar and doing many things. And but second aspect, post-retirement, is I have started dreaming during days. So daydreamer. And one of the dream, and friends like you people are prompting me to keep dreaming during day. And this dream which Nabanshu is propagating is related to developing a framework. Forum is nothing but a framework, and particularly to this theme, as Abhijit mentioned, that we'll take the third aspect, the communication aspect, the first, and that's the right priority. But here I would like to mention a couple of things. Thing number one is that we don't want to do things which is being done by operational agencies. We are aiming to do things which nobody is doing as yet. And as far as regional framework is concerned, though WMO and other some of the regional agencies are doing in niche areas, but in agromet there is a huge void. So that is one aspect. And now coming to that information dissemination, I was dreaming that can we have e-community radio? Because now in Bangladesh, myself and Nabanshu, in the second phase of funding to Bangladesh government, we are trying to establish community radio. And community radio, again, though there's a low-cost solution for information dissemination, but still with the as was mentioned by Dr. Akhilesh Gupta, the e-communication radio would be a very good idea. I don't know. I'm just thinking out of box. How can that be? Abhijit, you are the mentor of this group, and you can think of it, because with the minimal cost, we can set up that kind of platform wherein we can capacitate a large number of people to have interactive radio processing in a very at community level. So that is one aspect. And the second aspect is use of ICT which I didn't mention earlier, was for capacity building, as was mentioned by Dr. Gupta. And that is again an area where the development of tools and those kind of things, because we have a lot of resources which are willing to contribute, but you can tie all of us over.
Well, thank you. I think this final comments kind of tied the whole conversation very well together. And a little brief on me for people who have joined afterwards. I'm an entrepreneur based out of Silicon Valley. My primary competency is understanding customers and figure out a solution that works and that they will use. And in the process, I've worked with different types of technologies, from software to satellites to sensors, and now at the back of it all, everything that I know is basically what I've learned from my customers. And whenever I look forward to, even when I talk to you, you always know in my back of my mind, I'm thinking of you as a customer. That's just a kind of disease I have at this point in time. Anybody I talk to, even my son, I look at him as my customer and say, what can I do for him that will help him or enable him to do the right thing, right? So that's a core belief that an ethos that has helped me, and I'm hoping that I can bring that to the group. And I'm sure you all who have worked with different types of stakeholders, you feel the same. I think that's natural in the course of this career or job or the life that we lead today. So that being said, I wanted to kind of create a small framework around, because this subject is pretty big. We are talking about ICT, we are talking about capacity building, and then mentoring around it, and then success. But all around it, we're also talking about entire South Asia. So which means there's a lot of variability of where the different countries or the regions are in terms of each one of them. And the good part of it, that ICT kind of touches all of it. So I wanted to kind of create a small visual framework so you guys can keep that in mind while we're having this conversation. And as people contribute, you can tie it back to that framework. So at the top level, if you look at it, we are talking about ICT, we are talking about capacity, and we are going to talk about success. Within ICT, we are talking about the data, which is a foundation of everything in terms of ICT. On top of it, we build the applications, and those applications help us to disseminate the information. So under ICT, we're going to talk about these three, as Dr. Rathore has kind of laid out. Then we're going to talk about the capacity, which is basically capacity of what we are doing today, and in other regions where they are, and how we mentor and how we create that network, but also how ICT helps that capacity building, right? And then we're talking about success, where our farmers are. If they don't use any of this information, then we are not succeeding. So that being said, I heard two people, Dr. Ananta and Dr. Pratima, talking about the farmers and dissemination and information. And Dr. Akhilesh Gupta has a lot of information on that as well. I would like to know, of all the information that is going out today, what percentage of people are able to actually use it without any help from, say, Agromet, for that matter? Because what I'm trying to get to and help us understand is, this has to, eventually when we are done, we'll be successful if farmers are able to use that information on their own. If they still need help, then we still have to work, basically. So today, where are we? Are we at 1, 2, 3, 10, 15, 20%? Or we haven't even started there? Anybody? Dr. Akhilesh Gupta, possibly.
I think now this question for India is definitely, I would say, not as basic as you thought, because in fact, I would tell you that the farmers, I mentioned about the teledensity, and I am usually surprised that in the even in the remotest villages, the smartphones have reached.
Right.
And the way it is being occurred, even the children have learned. So
Right.
now gone those days where we say, oh, farmers are illiterate, they don't have. So in fact, I'll tell you, we used to work with the progressive farmers to begin with, when we started this SMS and other thing. But now it's gone much beyond that. So I think the scale is not the question. The question is that how do we penetrate content generation to designation card is more relevant than the reach. Reach is there, already there, and the government is now in fact going. Now the spectrum, the next generation of spectrum is going in much more. And 5G is coming. The 4G will go like anything at the core of the population of the India. So therefore, that point is there. But I'll tell you the ease of content, reaching is very important. I think Dr. Rathore mentioned something very. I did this experiment recently. That I was leading the Science and Technology Innovation Policy, formulation. So I mean, we use all modes of communication, but then we realize that we are somewhere lacking in terms of reaching out to the right people in the right language. So you use the community radio mode. So in India, there are 291 community radio stations, and they operate in a very different way than the normal radio operate. And what we did, we identified. Our scope was limited, so we went identified in different region. We wanted to communicate the policy part, in the regional language. So we identified 25 of them, and then we then had recorded, things, in 13 languages, and then these recorded things were played for these community in 25 location. You know how much the response? I mean, I didn't expect that the response could be so much. And we got, this is a bimodal way. And that's why it works very well. You get feedback also. I got 2.5 lakh feedback on the community radio front. So this is I'm just giving example. But, I think we should not worry about the density part. We should more focus on the content and how we take it to that level, rather than talking about the penetration, how much it will penetrate. Penetration scope is there in India, at least in India. I don't know much about other countries, but in India, I don't think we have any issue about the penetration. Over.
Yeah, then thank you, Dr. Akhilesh. And that's what I was talking about. I wanted to kind of understand not the penetration of the network. Network penetration is there, and that can be built. But what I'm more worried about is the content penetration. Because when I look at agromet or farming in general, because I look at farming in general, there's so much information that can be passed, but then is the farmer ready to take it, first of all, right? Because not all the farmers are equally kind of equipped to use that information. And the second is the information is in a form that they even understand. So, and especially given there is so many different regional languages, not only India, but if we look at South Asia, how do you make it a universal language? That's what I think about. Like, if I have us ever sleepless night, that's what I think about. How do I pass this information in a way that the person doesn't have to think? And then good example is touch screen. It's basically everything is graphic, right? Nowadays becoming graphic because that is very easy for everybody to understand. That universal language of communication, right? So we can generate a lot of content probably, but is that content useful and usable by the farmer? The pull, as Dr. Rathore said, how are we going to pull this demand out of the farmer? What is that content that is going to move it? What's the content look like? What's the content feel like? What's the content usable like, right? So from that perspective, I want to understand the content that we already disseminate, because IMD and Agromet, and ISRO has a lot of work around it already. So there's a lot of valuable information content out there. So I'm trying to understand, given I don't have the kind of penetration or understanding of that, how much of that information that is going in the farmer is actually able to use by himself down in the field.
I can give you some example to you that in India, there are two reports are there, economic assessment, where there are a lot of samples are there and they have evaluated and how much penetration. Another, index is called Likert scale. In the Likert scale, one index is there where if it is cross 3 or like that, then you can think that penetration is very, is evolving. Now, this Likert scale penetration has been done in Nepal. I can share with you, and also in Bangladesh. Bangladesh still it is 2.3, and Nepal it is around 2.8. It means that what Dr. Akhilesh Gupta has mentioned, that even in Likert scale, the thing is there are 6 categories are there. One is that whether reached or they have understand, whether it is reached or they have understand, not understood, whether they don't know. There are 6 categories are on the Likert scale is there. So so this has been done. So the 3 countries I know this is doing, but penetration, this scale will be more and more high. What he has mentioned, Dr. Gupta and Dr. Rathod, that how this content can be penetrated in the understandable form. Right. There are 6 categories, but in the first category, if you get more and more, then you will understand that penetration is. But this is going on actually in the 3 countries so far I know. So these kind of ideas can be shared with in Pakistan or Myanmar or Afghanistan, that whenever they will start, because now when they will start they may not be able to do, because if you do this thing, you have a baseline data with you. If you compare, so we can tell them that you start of doing that baseline data with you, then only you can do after 1 year, 2 year, how much penetrations are there. So some of the methodology is available, but we want to share to other countries when they will be starting agreement service. Okay.
Yeah, perfect. No, that is exactly what I was looking for. Thank you. That's helpful, because that becomes our own measurement, like where we started and where we are going, how far we have reached.
Vijit, can I comment something?
Yeah, please, Nachiketa. Yes.
Yeah, just my little experience, which I understand. Like like it's not like making an information sending to farmer. There will be like channel, and I think for India, why it's so successful, because of all the Rathi Maharathis here. They create that SAUs, which is so important. And when I start working with Bangladesh, especially with Dr. Chattopadhyay, we miss that one. They don't have any state agriculture university who can actually help to penetrate those things. And also another thing is not like, as Dr. Gupta says, like farmer understand much better way than we understand as a scientist. But the problem is there should be an intermediate. We use a bunch of NGOs while we're working with IMD and Bihar. We actually train those NGOs to understand the information, and then they make it in a very simple way, and especially like those information goes to Hindi and Bhojpuri. So we can't even tell about like those probability things, but they explain. So what I understand for other country, I'm not talking about India, because India is a like benchmark. For other country, two things will be important: to have a network with SAUs, and also like a training of trainers. So TO2 kind of things will be there, where they can, like farmer don't have time for do that. That's their bread and butter. So they have to go at field and work. It doesn't matter whether it's rain or not, they will go there. But I think we should have some kind of medium or channels or participants who can actually get the trainings from us or the med service in terms of the capacity building, and then they can communicate this information. Thanks.
Right. Yeah. So I wanted to kind of set my own expectation in my head. Dr. Rathod and Dr. Akhilesh Gupta, the conversation that is coming out from it is that where India is a benchmark is because of the intermediaries that we have set, through which the information goes and reaches the farmer or the customer in a way that they can actually now use, and they don't have to get too much involved about the nitty-gritties of the science. So if we look 30 years out, are we going towards a world where our farmers would be able to directly work with our systems, or these intermediaries would still be absolutely necessary?
I think intermediaries would always add value, always. And our role will have to be in the context of enhancing their capacity for doing the business with much ease and also more skillful manner. As far as the second aspect of your question, the content, as has been nicely mentioned by Nachiketa, that farmer is highly weather sensitive. He has to be. I mean, so therefore, you look forward for that kind of information and what intercultural operations he is to do. So he is very sensitive. So, but when it comes to content, then again there is a third level of variability. In some situations, some contents are more meaningful. In some other situations, other contents are more meaningful. And in the emerging agriculture marketing situations, global as well as South Asian, as well as the Indian and other countries' national markets, because agriculture marketing system is going a rapid transformation.
Right.
And here again, like for example, in India, we have opened up, the government has opened the market. You can sell your produce anywhere. And therefore farmer, I know many farmers who are from Rajasthan, we are cultivating pomegranate and it is being sent to 1,500 kilometers because here the farmers don't fetch the value. But the farmer should know as to where he can reap the better price. And so there's a lot of agro-meteorology in agriculture marketing, and can we capacitate the service provider in better organized with providing better tools to organize the available data, process those data and generate information which is more meaningful to the farmer, linking it to the market. And so this is a new area actually. I mean, not much has been done, so we can focus more on that. Yes, Dr. Gupta.
Okay.
I think a very important point, Dr. Rathore touched upon. So, you know, I recall that in, say, about a decade back, I was working on important project on the potential for commercialization of meteorological product and in India. So, you know, the PwC had done a very interesting study for India. And they say that even, I mean, I'm talking about the study of 2009 or something, where it says that agriculture, the market is such a potential market, the profit is very less, but the huge multiplicity of the order to put together, it is such a huge that it can fetch you 1,500 crore per year. That is the market of agriculture product. Now, this is the point that that Rathore touched upon, and I want to elaborate on that part. See, government is doing a wonderful job in creating the product, creating the knowledge. And this is based on the best available tools and also the best available expertise. And India has one advantage, that we have a mediatory sitting at the university level, at the ICR institution level, and now in fact going beyond, say, KVK level now. But the problem is not ending there. You see, that is all very good. But you need somebody to take the product to the farmers. You need a private sector, intermediary. Without having, now what is happening today? The private sector themselves are setting up things, and saying, oh, Andy is not cooperating, so we are going forward and doing it. Why not have a public-private partnership developed at a part of national policy, and where the from the generation to the consumption of the product, we seamlessly work with public and private. Let private earn the money, we don't care, but that serves one purpose of government, that we are reaching out to everybody. So a government purpose is not to earn money. Let the private sector earn all the money, but the credit must be shared by both. So value addition of the product, and this is very important. It is important from one very important point of view. As you mentioned, it should be in the language understood by them, but also it should be in the language of their own. So there has to be regional language component, local language component. So the visualization part of the product becomes very important. Unless it is properly done, the way they will understand. So as you said, it is now the tools are well recognized and are available. For example, the touch screen is everywhere in the entire. India is now the largest user of mobile, more than China now.
Right.
So therefore, India, and the reason is only one reason, that the cost of incoming and outgoing is cheapest in the world. That is the reason. So you don't have. So that's why the number of users are very large in India, and including farmers. We must leverage that. This is the high time that we work with the private sector, complete this, the weekend that we have, we must complete the cycle, create a seamless connection from the producer to the user of this. Thank you.
Right. Yeah, what we call farm to fork, basically, kind of connection. And I've personally kind of thought through this model quite a lot myself, because this is a problem across the world that we're facing. So if you guys give me 2 minutes, I would like to share an experience that I had just yesterday. I was talking to one of my colleagues in Netherlands, and we were discussing our soil moisture sensors. And my goal of that soil moisture sensor is to how to kind of put it in a way that we can leverage the data for small holding farmers, because sensors by themselves are expensive and not every farmer is going to have it. Most farmers have less than an acre of land. So how can we give them the data and kind of run it? So there are three informations that were very critical when we were discussing, and I'm going to kind of bring it to the context of soil moisture. So kind of I run through the ICT cycles. So we were talking about it, and I said, and it brings back to the Dr. Rathor's first point, is data. So in order for any sensor to be used, even the touchscreen, you needed calibration data, which basically tells the sensor how to react in a particular situation. You can consider it as AI, or how we develop our knowledge base to act in a particular situation. So that calibration data is very, very important. And when you look at soil, it's not soil type, the water retention ability and all that is one dimension, but also there is a factor of salinity and carbon in a soil, which affects how soil moisture is kind of detected by a sensor. Now, in order for this to work at a even say for that matter, West Bengal level, right, which has 7 different types of kind of weather soil types, probably, or maybe multiple. So if we broadly look at it, it is a very huge data grid. It's a very big data set. For even if I want to use the sensor as a direct mechanism to the database, not even talking about AI, I need to have that database very well defined, right? Then the second piece of it that comes into play is, how am I going to communicate this to the farmer? Because these numbers are very complicated even for the scientists to understand sometimes. How my farmer is going to understand, and what is the action he's going to take based on that. And then obviously all the intermediaries in between. That's the communication piece of it. And then the final piece of it is that, how am I going to make this data available real time? Those are the kind of challenges that we look at. And all of this has ICT pieces in there, right? So basically the communication piece, the transfer piece, and then actual data generation piece. So like, how do I make sure of that? And every one of them that we're going to talk about will have similar kind of, may not be exactly the same, but similar kind of track, where basically you have the data, you have the data application, and then you have the data dissemination. And Dr. Rathore has put this absolutely concretely in the beginning. Now, if we look at from the perspective of what Dr. Akhilesh Gupta is saying, is that how now we integrate this whole thing. That's one level of layer that we talked about, into the actual production process to the consumption process, which basically becomes if you look at it, it's like you see one horizontal layer, and then you see on top of it multiple horizontal layers to get to the consumption. And it's a very, 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 like, sometimes it's very complicated to even fathom, right? And then you have to distill it down to a one single experience that user can see and use. And I think so far, the radio conversation that both Dr. Akhilesh Gupta and Dr. Rathore mentioned I think is the best way as of now. Like, if we want instant gratification, instant results, our airwaves are the best way to communicate, right? Because anything that you even write can be interpreted, even if people understand English or the language it is written in, 13 people will kind of interpret it in 13 different ways, written language. But spoken language, people have a chance to at least kind of verify, discuss, and correct. Just exactly what we are doing. The airwaves are I think the best mechanism to communicate at this point in time. But over a period of time, I think it will become more based on digital information, which is more concrete, which is verifiable, which is kind of discussable, and which is one of the things that we have seen is the chat mechanism is picking up very fast. So I think if we talk about solutions and success, the e-radio solution, it could be podcast, or it could be a more what we are calling as chat rooms, where people can go and do it. It has the kind of mentoring aspect of it. It has the dissemination aspect of it. It has also the trainer aspect of it. All of that can be kind of brought into that mixture. In terms of putting these solutions together, again, we have to come back to the basis, which is basically where is the knowledge source and the data source, right? Because anybody who is actually in front in this radio communication, they have to be supported. It's like artillery for the army that is going out or the infantry, which is in the front. So we have to build that knowledge source into, and a lot of these knowledge sources exist. How we kind of bring this knowledge source together so the front men or front women are able to use that knowledge source very easily. So I think let's take this example of e-radio, right? Because it's a success mechanism. It can create success. We know that, and it's something that we can easily do. Let's think about this and try to kind of define this solution a little bit more to see how it will work. And I would like to kind of take Dr. Akhilesh's ground level experience as he has used this experiment to see what are the challenges you came across and what are the kind of best practices that we can learn from.
Are you talking? Is it about the community radio?
Yes, it's about the community radio. Yes.
Yeah, I think I had very good experience. I'll tell you some of the areas where we could not reach in the normal remote. I'll give you an example. As a part of the consultation of the science and technology innovation policy related issue, we had, something like reached out to nearly 1 crore people in the country. But at the end of the day, I realized that we haven't reached some places like, northeast in the Himalaya, also in the islands. So we reach out to Car Nicobar and that area through community radio. Also, we reach out to some of the remote areas of, Meghalaya and Nagaland. And the kind of comments that we received, unimaginable. I mean, I could not have received that kind of comments or this kind of suggestions from anybody. So I'll just give you one example, and this is worth sharing here. There are people in village of Meghalaya. They ask a fundamental question that why at all this science is needed. Why should we need science? We are doing our business, whatever we are doing. Why science is required? So, once we got this kind of comment, then what we did, we, through our, community radio system, we reached out to them to explain them that why science is required for them and what is the impact of science on the community. So I think this is a great way of working. Although you can't, I'll tell you the limitations. Limitation is that we have only, as I said, 291 radio stations in the country. In India, so I'm not sure about the other country. They might have much less number. So it cannot be used for the primary purpose. It can be used for the secondary purpose. So you can have rest of the channels. In addition, you can have to fill the gap. Okay. That's an experience that I get.
Perfect. Very good. Navanshu, you had a comment.
Actually, whatever has been said, I just add to that. This is a point where World Meteorology Organization has a lot of investment. What they have done, they have seen, and that time technology was not that much of advance. What they have seen that media they have taken. One, they have taken farmer awareness program. Okay, so can you imagine WMO has invested money for 10,000 farmers awareness program in Latin America, in South Asia and Africa. And what Dr. Shivkumar and Robert Stefanski they have done, so they have tapped a regional person, they have trained to the trainer, and they are onto the field. And then they have done the farmer awareness program. Another thing they have done called climate field school, okay, which is very very popular in Indonesia, okay. And Indonesian government invested a lot of money on the climate field school, because they have seen that before the climate field school and after the climate field school, what is the GDP? What is the difference in the GDP? And that is why every year they're increasing the investment on climate farmer on school. So I propose, in addition to this whatever mentioned, that a proper mechanism of even farmers awareness program, WMO has very very concrete type of, they are going into in the morning, sitting with them, asking their queries in their language, they solve on the spot and so many things, and they are again going to that. So I think this mechanism can be included into our system to reach out the understandable content, and whatever the feedback WMO has received, that they have reached to the 10,000 farmers, and everywhere there are 15 farmers are there. But when they got the feedback, it is a multiple of what they are getting. That means the farmers who has been getting benefit of this kind of survey, what Dr. Akhilesh Gupta has mentioned, that has been populated to other areas, because always they are things that economics or like that. Okay, so I think that this kind of mechanism can be evolved into the SAFOAM forum and can be shared with the others, so that this very important point can be taken into the South Asia forum as a very holistically and seamlessly. Right.
Right. So is anybody from Sri Lanka or Nepal or Myanmar who can highlight more on this?
Premalala has just left because he has some other business. So.
Okay. All right. All right. So I think I'll open up this forum to anybody who has other comments on this subject, and then we're going to talk about a little bit on the capacity building. I think the capacity building aspect of it becomes very important if we have intermediaries to kind of train the trainer kind of programs.
Yeah, can I talk?
Okay.
Uh,
Chakravarti, okay, go ahead.
Yeah, can I talk?
okay. Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, this is Dr. Chakravarti from Delhi, IR New Delhi. Well, I appreciate the points raised by Dr. Akhilesh Gupta regarding the private PPP, private public partnership. I happened to work with this private company for a couple of years, and then I found there was a competitive spirit rather than a cooperation spirit. I It's unfortunate that the private sector. My experience is less, but I have seen a couple of firms wherein the cooperation spirit is lacking, and we all should try, especially people like Dr. Akhilesh Gupta, Dr. Rathod, Dr. Nibansu. They should try to develop the atmosphere, a type of cooperative atmosphere, not a competitive atmosphere. If that is achieved, we can reach the skies, definitely. And the second point I would like to mention, maybe out of context, there is a serious problem we are likely to face, we have been facing, the farmers, children's shifting from rural to urban areas. Rural to urban areas. We are spending a lot of money in reaching the farmers. We are doing a lot of efforts to reaching the farmers. But then what if there is no takers? Just like you were telling about your son is your treating your son is also a customer. Yeah, if you don't have the customer, then what for all these efforts? So I would like you to help this matter. Dr. Rathod, Dr. Dakhilesh Gupta, and others may think of it and then try to do something. Thank you.
Dr. Rao.
Yeah, thank you for I could able to recollect and grasp many things from from our colleagues, Akhilesh Gupta, Dr. Rathod, and Dr. Chakravarti, and you. And say, if you see the scenario, in this country, there's a lot of change in the as told by Dr. Chakravarti, that uh, from the traditional agriculture we have moved to agriculture with more technology. We are more using more what you can say attract. All the mechanization. We have moved into mechanization, and rightly pointed by Dr. Chakravarti that say farmer they don't want to send their son to the to the farming what is the business, because they don't want to look their son to soil toil in the in the sun or in the soil. So everybody is changing. So slowly migration is taking place, and so as you said that we need to think of I don't know how best we can uh, convince the farmers to make them the agriculture more profitable, like that. Say one thing is that, okay, as Dr. Akhilesh Gupta said, there's absolutely the technology point of view. We had a very good IT technology which has penetrated deep into the rural areas, because everybody, all farmers are nowadays having a smartphone, and there's no depth for the for uh, information available to them. But one thing is that about the contents, he has rightly pointed out what of the contents. If we see some of the contents, so what actually we are only pushing information from the top down approach. Instead of it, we are not going to, the bottom up approach. So what actually they need? Say, is it what I'm giving information? Is it useful to him or not? So nobody is analyzing that. So, and yesterday I had a meeting. Attended some meeting, a virtual meeting, and after 35 years of our agro advisory services came into the more than 30 years into the this one. Still, there are some farmers who are not following agro advisories, and some people are following. I don't know the reason why. I don't know why we are not able to convince the farmers the contents of this information is useful for you to increase your yield, or maybe in other, other things. I don't know. So that means there is something. Seriousness, or maybe some lacuna, serious lacuna in the contents. So we need to, I mean, content should be more, what you can say, attractive. Say what actually they need is definitely, I mean, because I worked for 8 years in the private farm as advisory, and some interaction with the farmers. I mean, this one. So what actually they want is, say, what the advisory content is about a region, or maybe at present we are giving at a block level. So farmers wants, sir, is it going to rain in my village? Is it going to rain in my field? So this type of information is, it's very, very difficult to give this information. But there are some, I don't know, there are some private people have approached us. They can give the forecast up to 3 by 3 kilometers range. I don't, because of course our IMD is giving at 9 by 9 still. It's a big question. I mean, it's still to be validated. And people say that with confidence that we can go up to the kilometer 3 kilometers. But of course, nobody is entered into that agreement. But so that is the status of availability of the technology. Say 3 by 3 kilometers, I mean, area, they could give this forecast. And the farmers what actually want about the alerts, rather than giving a regular, okay, you do irrigation, you do like, it's not that. The content should be, say, the alerts. In many of the, the other countries, so actually they give the nowcasting. So nowcasting facility is not available in our advisory system or in our agro advisory system. So say this region is going to hit by some a cyclone, or maybe tidal waves, or floods, or maybe like that, so that information, if you could able to provide that information, so definitely I think people will get attracted, and they will take this information. So sir, just I will come to you, and a few more things I need to uh, weather warning alerts, extreme events, and and we have been developing from the research point of view, from our this point of view, where we are talking mostly on the modeling side or modeling. But the modeling should be, say, when you say the model, it should be operational one. So okay, finally we say this model is better, this model is better, or yield is better. That's not the way. Say we will be able to say that it should be operational. Okay, based on your past data and the current, I mean, weather information, what information has to be given using a model. So it should be operational. So this type of, I think, development is needed in this ICT. I mean, in our, I mean, in our technology also, in our research program also to be developed. Mm. And one more thing, sir. Say we talk about the farmers, but there are different types of farmers are available in India. One is a urban farmer who grows only the vegetables around the big cities, peri-urban areas, and the rural areas farmers are there. And we have a hill region farmer. Their requirement is quite different. And we have a coastal area farmers are there. Their requirements are different. And we have a low rainfall region farmers, where we have very low rain. You go to the Jaisalmer and this one. So their requirements are different. So I mean, our aim should be to reach the farmers with all the contents which they like. So definitely, I think it is going to be very successful. Our effort will be very successful in this if you, I mean, tackle all these points. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, can I enter here just for a minute?
Please, yeah.
So I think Dr. G.G.S.N. Rao has brought in very important issue. And this is important in the context of agriculture, meteorology, and AS. See, today we have in India both the GFS model and the unified model run by IND as well as NCR, providing the forecast at a scale of 9 kilometer to 10 kilometer. Now, when we are talking about going to the block level, we are, in fact, the contemplation is that we should be able to generate our forecast at say 1 kilometer resolution level. And therefore, there is a mismatch. And I'll tell you, the downward level, I think the agriculture information, the three part of the agro-advisory service, that is your weather observation, forecast, and agriculture. Sorry, the agromet forecast. All the three things should be at the same scale. If the forecast is at 10 kilometer and you want to give agrometeorology advisory at 1 kilometer, because then you will have a mismatch.
Right.
As Dr. G. Rao mentioned, that IBM came forward recently with the proposal that they can provide forecast at 1 kilometer level. Our own vision, and since I have also been part of the
No, sir, it's not IMD. It's not IMD. Some private, some weather forecast from outside the country.
No, and I know that. I know the entire issue. So, so the vision, if you see our vision, it is going for 5 kilometer in the year 2024. Whereas if you see the vision of the NWF US and also ECNWF, they are already producing 1 kilometer level forecast. Now, this is we must upgrade our system, and agrometeorology, if it has to go accurate at the lower, at the final level, we need a high resolution forecast, and then only this can be successful. Because otherwise, 10 kilometer forecast will only be replicating its output for 10, 10 other what is called block level. So that point is very important that we need the upgradation of the product generation at our end.
Yeah, small. Sorry. Actually, Dr. Rathod also said that we need to have information about the agricultural, what you can say, the market trends and market information. And with the recent introduction of the government farm laws, and people can sell their product anywhere in India. So the farmer should be able to get some information about which place he can get a better price. So that information is, I think, if it could, there are some, there must be some information available, and we could able this IT could able to bring out on the fingerprints. So if you want to know that in Chennai, a Rajasthani farmer at Chennai, what is the price of so and so, you should be able to get that information. So this type of information has to be generated, made available to the farmers. So it will be much big. Of course, this is a part of not exactly agrometeorology, but it's a service to the agro advisory services. Thank you.
Abhijit, at this juncture of deliberations, I tend to ask some questions to myself, to ourselves.
Sure. Yeah.
And the key question is that there are a large number of issues and problems. We are not going to resolve all of them. We can't.
Right.
Second thing is, we are not going to compete with, as Dr. Chakravarti mentioned. Only thing is that this forum, can it supplement the national efforts, initiatives, augment and add value, something like that?
Right.
We are very clear in our mind to that extent. And in order to do so, what are the niche areas where we can concentrate? Now, Nabanshu has rightly, during our deliberations, we fragmented into different groups, and we could do a lot of things. National agromet advisory service, because we had a lot of finance and a lot of other technical scientific support and so on and so forth. Here, what is available at our disposal is that we are the knowledge pool. That's it. But we need finance. we need other support. And without which, whatever we discuss will remain only discussion and nothing fruitful will happen. So therefore, at this point in time, we need to identify those low-hanging fruits and ride on the kind of transformative processes which can happen or can be done with the existing data available freely in public domain. Because even if we seek information from various government sources and things, no, it will not. It will take a lot of energy, a lot of time.
Right.
So therefore, when it comes to finances, out of all our 6 themes, this is the only theme wherein, plus the portal, wherein you can have a business model as well as for the forum.
Okay.
And so whatever information, whatever content you generate, which is of course marketable, can generate revenue as well. Now, since you are from the business, I mean, you have both philanthropy and you're a scientist, and we don't have that kind of exposure. So can we set up an arm which does it on, you understand better than me, I don't have words for that, that we do all these efforts and garner support of the national agencies and also the free flow of data and limited finances, as Dr. Akhilesh Gupta mentioned. We can also seek help of other donor agencies, but end of the day, we need to have a sustainable economic model. Otherwise, this will not sustain and it will not even take off.
Yeah,
so
and
therefore,
that's what I'm thinking. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
So can you guide us as to how to develop that kind of platform, and then what are the low-hanging fruits, and then first we identify them, not all the plethora of problems, but few things which are of important I mean, prime requirement for farmers as well as intermediate, and government wants to propagate that. End of the day, it is the government we need to seek support, and therefore they are to be really we unki sharan mein jana hai. And so kindly guide
I think
us.
yeah, so I think as I mentioned in the beginning, people do things for their own reasons, so we have to find those reasons, and business model is one of those reasons, right? Because then people know that they can create success using that business model, and we'll think more about it as we go. But I think the whole value chain here is about content. Everything that we are discussing seems like more about content. If the content quality is good, then it is useful for somebody, and then we can create a business model around it. Who is the kind of like in the soil moisture thing, we think the business model will work around insurance companies, because insurance companies are the ones who are going to insure the crop, and it's in their benefit that the crop is healthy, which can be benefited from the soil data. So similarly, we have to find who is the person or who is the organization, agency. They could be philanthropic agencies, they could be also CSRs, they could be government agencies. We have to identify them, but primary thing is, whose customer are we serving for what they're going to basically willing to give us some finances so we can continuously do that. One of the things that I personally kind of believe is that philanthropy can only last for so long. So when the economic downturn comes, philanthropy is the first thing that stops, then the marketing. And these kind of initiatives where we'll have thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of lives, maybe kind of crores of lives involved, it has to be sustainable. It has to do something that is continuously, we can do it. So that being said, I think there are two types of things that comes out. One is the content, the other is the services. Given we have the knowledge pool, this knowledge pool is probably useful for somebody. whether it's cross region. In that example, that we use our knowledge pool to train, say, Myanmar or Nepal or some other country, and that's one kind of services that we can build, which is supported by ICT. Again, the knowledge base and the data that we kind of bring from the free services, collate it together to convert into knowledge or intelligence that can be used forward. So, and that's why I was kind of having this, through this conversation, I'm taking notes. What kind of knowledge is more useful for the farmers, irrespective of it is whether it's localized to their conditions or their language? But if we could figure out a benchmark of the content, that these are the basic content that a farmer needs, weather is certainly one of them. Market information is probably the second. And then figure where are these free sources are. If we don't have the finances at the beginning, what are these free data sources are, and how we can bring it together in one place to create the knowledge base that we need to create. Does that make sense?
Hey, Abhijit, what I want to try to understand that concept of SAFOAM, what Dr. Rathore has mentioned.
Sure.
Here you are not developing any business model, and you are telling sustainable. Already in India, it is a sustainable. Okay. So how, and you think of that because this is all related to the economy of the farmer. So if you increase the economic condition of the farmer, it will be automatically sustainable.
Exactly.
Our question is that it is already examples are there how in other countries we can do this kind of thing, right? Now,
Right.
again, I am telling you that, even that day I was showing, you have to start step by step, because if you go to other country, except Nepal and Bangladesh, in other countries, all are in infancy stage. Okay. They have not started. You have to first you have to show them what is possible. That day I was showing that open source data from NOAA at 5 kilometer resolution, course resolution. We can do NDVI, we can do TCI, and also how you can monitor the drought with NDVI TCI as a composite index. So if you show them, they are, you need not pay any money or like that. It is open source data. You only train them and they can start off time drought monitoring, right? Where the people are very infancy stage, right? Okay.
Right.
Similarly, if you are, that day somebody was telling that we don't know what is called agromet advisory services. Okay. So in particular country, then what we can do, we can do very short-term training, capacity building or like that. Even in Sri Lanka, they have a great demand for subseasonal forecast. I was talking to Nachiketa, whether Nachiketa can be involved into whatever he has done in Bihar, whether he can do. First, we have to create interest without financial thing, because whatever Dr. Rathore has mentioned, definitely will be coming to that, financial R&D. But first, you have to get the kind of sense that all the countries, they should agree that they can do just like India, make the confidence and exchange of knowledge or like that. So we have to go very primitive to ultimately the higher stages. So in that aspect, if you can do, or somebody can comment, because always our eye is SAFOAM, not that India, what we are
Yes.
doing.
Absolutely.
And how we can do, and it has to be shown to. And next phase is that we are now, I'm just telling you, this is a 6th core group meeting, and next meeting will be that in workshop, where we are trying to invite WMO and also World Bank, because they may be finance, or maybe UNDP, or maybe somebody. So some donor agencies. So we have to, all the 6 leaders should tell them what exactly they are going to do. And then when a concrete thing will be coming out, then only we have to start up operating the full process. Though it's very difficult, but we are sure that the success in India, and people, all the distinguished person in India who has made it possible. So we can make it possible with in India and other guests also. So this is my submission.
No, absolutely, and I think you're absolutely correct, and that's why I was leading with services, which is basically, when I say services, doesn't mean that, but it's basically sharing our knowledge. That is what we have between all of us. There's a knowledge pool that already exists, and obviously because there's a variability of the knowledge and the implementation itself across SAFOAM. I think that is the first thing we have to bring. That at least there's a basic level of benchmark across the SAFOAM, so we can build on top of it. So right now, basically, it's like building a house, right? You cannot build a house on top of an uneven foundation. You have to basically create a foundation, and I think in order to create that foundation, which will also bring the interest factor into play, is sharing that knowledge, bringing them to a level where they can start absorbing all that information. I think that is basically goes without even saying. We have to do that, because if we don't do that, we'll have an uneven plane to build on, and then eventually that will lead to distortion of interest across SAFOAM. So I think obviously I like the kind of e-radio concept, because e-radio, once done, it can also be disseminated through mobile phones. Because if we make sure that these are very crisp FAQ, but like frequently asked questions type of kind of radio broadcast, then the packet size are very small, that you can pass through networks into the mobile phones, and people can use it as a FAQ, like, I've got a question, I get an answer, and then I can basically talk back to kind of get a feedback or whatever. So it's possible. All of that is technologically possible. Now from our perspective,
sorry for interruption.
Sure, go ahead.
Anant and Pratima and Bina, they are working so many years into agromet advisory actual field. So they can share how, what role they can play in SAFOAM in elevating that operational services in other kind. What could be the role of their, because they are very successful events.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I have another meeting at 6, so I would, need your kind of permission to leave now. And it's a great meeting and talking to all of you, and this actually helped me recalling my. I somehow forgot what this agrometeorology was. So it's nearly a decade back I used to do. But it's always a pleasure, in fact, to be among the agrometeorologists and talk something useful for the country and for the world. I think wonderful experience, and I would, whatever way I can contribute. When Navanshu asked me, to participate, I said, "Why are you inviting a non-agrometeorologist for this meeting?" And but thank you very much for making me recall those agrometeorology days. It's always pleasure to be part of you. Thank you very much. And thank you, Dr. Rathore, for remembering me always, and then continuing with your, I would say, blessing. I have always working with Dr. Rathore like anything. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Guptaji. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Akileshji.
Thank you.
All right. Bye. All right. So we have.
Over to Anant.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you, sir. So based upon my own experience, what we are doing, actually we are preparing this agromet advisory bulletin based upon past weather data as well as medium range forecast data received from the IMD. And we are preparing agromet advisory bulletin using the crop condition also, crop stage also, and how many crops is raised in the, just like for me, I am preparing for NCR regions. So for NCR region, what are the main crops during that times? So based upon that, we are preparing agromet advisory and then disseminating. Again, we already discussed that the three main content for this process. First is your database should be there, and this database should be strong. Second is your content, agromet advisory content, as well as weather forecast, accuracy of weather forecast. And third is your dissemination process. So if your dissemination process is better, we have to improve this one also, because for NCR Delhi it's okay, mobile facility is there. So we are transferring this through DD Kisan also. Radio is also there, FM radio, but for FM radio only one slot is there. 3:32 and like that. But through WhatsApp, we have made the WhatsApp groups. So through WhatsApp, we can get the feedback from the farmers also. So this dissemination system we should improve. Again, the content, the agromet advisory content we have to improve, because in India there are large number of farmers, again in large number of crops. Even in one village also, they are raising different types of crops, vegetables and paddy means field crop also, number of crops also. So crop specific and area specific advisory we have to prepare. But if at this point there is a benefit of ICT is that we have to have some mechanics so that we can develop crop specific and area specific advisories, and this can be disseminated to that particular farmers or that particular village, so that farmers also create their own interest. Because nowadays what we are preparing general advisory and considering major crops, and this advisory we are disseminating to the all farmers. And suppose some farmers is not raising that crops, so he will not take interest on that. So that is my submission also. So we suppose using nowadays artificial intelligence is also there. So using that artificial intelligence or machine learning process, we can develop some model, ICT model, that this advisory, crop specific advisory, goes to the crop, that specific area in a real times. So that in real time that farmers can also be benefited. This is my submission, sir. Thank you, sir.
So, Ananta, I've got a quick question. Now, everything that you have learned over the last 23 years of your service, if you have to teach it to somebody else, right? How would you? So, we would like to hear how it is can be replicable. So, obviously, your depth in the subject of NCR and how that work is very important, and it's going to be used in forming different ICT solutions that we form going forward. But today, I have to say, Dr. Ananta, can you go to Sri Lanka or work with Sri Lanka or Myanmar and teach them everything that you know, so they are able to come to the same level? As we said, like the foundation has to be at the same level in across SAFOAM. What would be your kind of preview on that? Share some of those thoughts.
Yes, sir. So in this case, first step is the awareness, sir. So awareness programs, either through personal contact or some broadcasting system, that should be there, so that farmers should know how much beneficial is this agromet advisory and this forum is. So if any person, whether this is farmer or any community, if they are getting the benefit from that services, definitely they will adopt that one. So for that, we can take the case study from India also, from other area also, from where farmers they are getting the benefit. Even progressive farmers, they can also give their documentary types and like that. They can share.
Let me rephrase the question, Ananta. Let me rephrase the question. So, getting to the farmer is like in a country like say Myanmar, for that matter. Getting to the farmer is second level. We have to first get to the Dr. Ananta there, because Dr. Ananta there may not know everything that Dr. Ananta in India knows, right? So if we have to bring Dr. Ananta in Myanmar, in Nepal, in Sri Lanka, in Afghanistan, we have to enable them, right? We have to train the trainer in a way, because they're going to be a trainer for their farmers.
Yes.
So we want to replicate your skills in that country or across SAFOAM. So share as a teacher, how are you going to approach that problem? That is more important first.
Yes.
So share some of that idea, and I would ask Pratima to do the same, because that's what is of credible value.
Yeah, for that we can do some training process we can do.
And in order to do that training, do you have you done that kind of training in part of your job? Because I'm assuming some new people, when come to their group, somebody's training them, right?
Yeah.
So you have content for that, you have process for that can be replicated across SAFOAM?
Yeah. So training programs in NCR, we are giving this training program as well as farmer awareness program. In that we are giving these ideas and how this agromet advisory services is beneficial to the farmers. So same we can do
Yeah,
for
no,
that.
what I'm asking is, Ananta, is that suppose a new person joins your group, right? Not the farmer, the new person who comes day one. How do you train them today in your group?
Yeah. So first we have give them what is the importance of this weather, what is the weather crop interactions, how this crop weather is affecting your crops, and what is the benefit of. There are several weather parameters, just like temperatures, rainfall, ET, and how these weather parameters is beneficial for your crops. So if these parameter and these crop is there is some crop weather interaction, just like humidity and temperature range is going for this range is this much, and your crop is this one, so there is a chance of pest and disease is there. Similarly, for if soil moisture is this much, ET value is this much, so suddenly there is some irrigation schedule. How much water for this crop is required? That importance of this all weather parameter, all things we can train them.
Okay.
And based upon that management, agromet advisory and management in the crops we can provide.
Perfect. So, Dr. Pratima,
it is two-pronged strategy. The new entrants, I mean, let's presume that in other countries they are all new entrants, and you made a very pertinent question. And that question here in India, we have a two-pronged strategy to train the new people, and at different times we have done that, and for different level of people who are inducted to discharge the functions. So for that, what we have done is we prepared a curriculum of 3 weeks to cover the entire spectrum of agromet service activities, starting from understanding the forecast and then translating forecast into advisories, the different tools deployed for preparing those advisory bulletins and crop weather relations, and finally the disseminations and also some aspects of getting feedback in terms of socio-economic impacts, etc. So, but this is a very organized training, but what can be thought of is sub-modules of this 21-day training program, which can be tailor-made to suit the requirement of different countries of the South Asia countries, because different countries, they have different requirements. Right. And it need not be done in a one go. It can be thought of in fragmented manner, wherein the initiation module can be first level, and then they go back to the working experience, and they come with some exposure of working with the farms with new problems, new questions, and then go to the second level of. That's how we can think of.
Right. That's perfect, Doctor. That's exactly what I was trying to.
Abhijit, thing is that again I'm mentioning, we are very primitive stage now, right? Now those who are attending the meeting, they have given their consciousness that they will be participating. But if you ask her that how he will do, there are some administrative issues are there. Same thing was asked from Space Application Center, how I can do. So with the guidance of Rathore sir and others, we will see that how a institutional mechanism with SAFOAM can be established, because she cannot give the training unless until he'll get the permission from her authority. So what we will do here, these things is very clear, as she has consented, she is willing, and Dr. Rathore sir has said that we have a 21 days module and they have participated, we have done, that can be done jointly, but she is willing. That is one first thing which she is conveying today, but we have to make some mechanism, and ultimately we have to do this thing. So am I right, Rathore sir?
Yes, sir.
Perfect. Please.
I wish to supplement this one. Just actually, of course, now all under virtual mode only. KK Singh has approached us as an association of agrometeorology. We have in India 17 chapters are there, spread across India. And we are planning to organize the climate risk management, at least on this particular topic, in different parts of the chapters. Will be organizing the training program for that particular 3-4 states involving that chapter. So that type of training program we are going to organize in the country to cover all the parts of the India. So association can provide a first hand for such training program.
That's what exactly I was going to tell, that we are all together in the form of association, SAFOAM or SAMA, and government needs us. The whole beauty of it is that their hands are full, they alone can't do it. And fortunately, through these forums, we can rope in the retired people who are willing to contribute, and that's the beauty. And so the whole aspect of the forum and association that that we can rope in the resources which are outside the government system as well as within the government system. So subsequently, as Namanshu mentioned, that once we are clear in our mind that what can we do, then we will find the ways and means of
doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely perfect. So now, in terms of one quick question that I have is that I'm assuming that they're really training the trainers, folks already in government system, that we can probably reach out as well, because they are probably already doing it for the Indian context. Once we have some kind of formal relationship with government, so we can use their resources, or all the retired resources like Dr. Vyas Pandey ji has mentioned. So I think we do have the resources and the content in place. We can assume that. So now, and we also have some of the volunteers here who are willing to kind of take it forward. So as a next step, Dr. Rathore, what would you suggest that we do? Should we reach out to the government agencies first, or we figure out what content that we really need that we want to talk about, and how do we go about it? Who is going to help us decide what content is meaningful? So when I'm thinking about it, I'm thinking of two things, right? So I'm looking at it from a perspective of services. It's a service that we're going to provide to people in India and outside. So for that, we need the people, we need the content, we need the medium through which we're going to, which is probably going to be online. And then how are we going to take the feedback from them into the system? And this has to be stored digitally somehow, because if we lose that feedback, then or if it stays in people's minds and heads, then it's going to not scale over a period of time. So from that perspective, what do we have that where we can actually start this? Like we know that we have to go create a service where we basically trying to bring the similar kind of, I would say, structures that we already have in India in other countries. That's one aspect of it. The other aspect of it, the Indian counterparts who are participating, what are the content we can bring to them that is beneficial for them to extend their knowledge? Because I think both the parties have to be interested, right? So it's not that one party is just giving and the other party is just getting. We have to give to everybody. I think giving is the best way to get at the end of the day. So I think there are two pieces of different sets of content that we are talking about. One that probably IMD Agromet already has that can be used to go out of India and work with SAFOAM. But then we have to also find other parts of information that exist within Indian context that can be given to IMD Agromet folks who will help us to kind of train the folks outside of India. Does that make sense, Namanshu and Dr. Rathore?
It does make sense, but one thing which I must reflect to your comment is that we can't provide service. Providing service needs a lot of things, and that's a very Herculean task.
Right.
So therefore, what can we do is we are contemplating um, uh, developing a portal for South Asia, which is yet not available, and we keep information on that portal which is of value to the service providers.
Okay.
And also in the process, we do some capacity building activities. And as an extended arm of this portal, as I mentioned, e-radio, that becomes a role model for entire region to, once we develop those kind of things, and then prepare a framework, and subsequently that framework can be further refined by different intermediaries and the user groups, and it is for them. We can't solve the problems of entire South Asia.
Right. Now, when I talk about services, I'm actually talking about the capacity building of
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So therefore, now how to go about it is that first at this level we are doing brainstorming as to what are the problems, how can we. That's what we done together today. Similarly, as Namanshu mentioned, different components have been addressed separately, and then we meet in a workshop where we further deliberate on that the mature ideas from your group when you make presentation to the larger audience, and then there we will be able to see different components of this activity in a holistic manner, starting from A to Z. We'll get some further refinement. And in the third phase, we will come to the aspects related to implementation. So the implementation strategy, we are yet very far off. But we have to keep that in mind. Otherwise, if you don't keep that in mind, you go heavy. We should over.
I just want to add, Abhijit, that I totally agree what he said. The thing is that, one thing is we are clearing from the beginning that we are not giving any service to anywhere. It is only the knowledge sharing, what Dr. Sir has mentioned, helping. It is just a kind of helping to others. So, we are doing brainstorming what he has mentioned. So we have to make a roadmap, and it is very sensitive. If you say in your roadmap that you will be giving the service and you are not giving, so we are very sensitive issue. We are not giving any service. We are just adding value to that. We can help, we can share the idea, we can prepare the web portal, whatever may be like that. So all these things will make a roadmap, and after the workshop will be there. And that even also, sir, we have a plan to make a chapter also in individual country, and we have to see that what kind of mechanisms can be done within the chapters and with the government, respective government, and also that government to government, how this. So all these things still it is very infancy stage. Now we are thinking about. So we make the roadmap and that will be circulated, and then we make a kind of thing. Then the question will be the implementation or like that, because that should be agreeable to all the members, all the respective governments or like that. So it's not easy job, but Dr. Sarwat is mentioned that it is in our mind that we want to see that one day Nepal, Bangladesh, they should come in a stage where we are, right? And that way we are helping, right? Though we will be having a lot of constraint, but we have to slowly overcoming the constraints or like that. But I'm requesting Pratima now to comment. Pratima is waiting.
Sir, as per our discussions, really, definitely in future, very fruitful results will come out of it, sir. But the thing is, how as of now, in India, we are giving block level forecast, sir. So to reach the farmer at village level, whether this block level forecast itself is enough or not is the main criteria, sir. But in India, especially in Andhra Pradesh, farmers are getting even block level forecast. Also, we are trying to disseminate at the Gram Panchayat level. But the success first we have to see, and instead of this only forecast, the information or the content what we are preparing based on the historical data, that is playing major role, sir. Even if the forecast goes wrong also, the information or the content what we are giving in agro advisory is playing 70% role, sir. Only during monsoon period, wherever the rainfall situation is there only the situation or the farmers want the pakka forecast. But rest of the year they need such type of information. And even the farmers are getting 1 lakh to 5 lakhs per acre rupees also with this our agro advisory, sir. We conducted several awareness meetings, farmers awareness meetings, feedback meetings also we have conducted. And as per the feedback also, even if you enrich them with this our agro advisory knowledge, they will use that knowledge and they will repeat and they will go for that information again and again in their future deeds also, sir. Actually, in while taking up the farming, say for example, if any pest and disease, it won't come only once or twice. In every year, if they come across such type of situations, they will go back and they are looking after that particular SMSs or whatever the information we are procuring. Yes, sir. So in that way, definitely, by using what we said now, no, that radio system, it will help, sir. Now also in the local villages, that community radios are helping a lot. If it becomes e-community radio, definitely it will reach each and every farmer, sir. And definitely this service is having a lot of happiness. Yeah, it will give happiness to the farmers at village level, sir. If the information generated is passed through the farmers through such type of communication, sir. So thank you, sir.
So we have Dr. Veena Sharma, probably have some ideas too.
Going to Veena, I'll ask him, Pratima, what will be your role in SAFOAM? Can you mention?
Yes, yeah. Sir, as on now, with our experience since the last 15-20 years, what we did is we generated some information like for, say for example, for pests and diseases, we framed out certain optimum rules for getting that type of each pest and disease, sir. And that can be replicated or that can be validated or that can be tested in new areas. That is one thing. And the information based upon the problem identified in each and every crop, the information we can take from the required areas, and we can frame out certain structures, sir, which can be useful for entire cropping period, sir. Like that we can give, and we have to study the lacunas and needs of that new areas where it has to be replicated. And whatever the information generated in India, especially in our state, can be given to the other centers also where it is required, sir. And we made some historical analysis also for each and every blocks, sir. So that information we are also using it now in the agro advisory system, sir. Say like if it is a rainfed situation, we worked out different probabilities for taking up agricultural activities. So we are validating such type of information and we are giving it as input in our agro advisory, sir. So such type of information and such type of trainings or help we can add or we can give up, sir.
Very good.
Now over to Veena.
Thank you, sir. Very good evening to all. Myself, Dr. Veena Sharma, working at SCOST, Jammu. I'm working for the last 9 years and having the experience of teaching. Actually, I am having specialization in soil science and agriculture chemistry. So teaching experience and extension and giving these advisory services for the last 9 years. I'm having a lot of experience, but I'm just gravel before this galaxy of scientists. From my little bit experience, I would like to share that this my Guruji has told everything, Dr. Rathore Sahab. So this weather is required, as he told. Then weather-based agro advisory. One very much important thing which is required for the weather is the one past weather is also very important. When some ICT tool is required to be made or some mobile app, then it requires some database. So that obviously that past weather data is very much required. Then on the basis of that, then when we give the advisory, actually the past 5 days weather data is very much important. If there is rain in the past 5 days, then the need of the irrigation depends on that. So soil moisture requires to be calculated, means it should be very important to know the soil moisture, how much it is. On the basis of that this irrigation could be given. Then another thing is that we were using these portals. Earlier we were having this under this guidance of our DDG sir, Dr. Chattopadhyay at that time. Kisan portal was very much important, sir, very much useful also. But only thing was, yes, one thing was also asked. In the different countries, there will be the different languages. And there was the option in that Kisan portal also that the language could be selected for a particular, as in the here in the states, different languages are there. So particular state could be selected and particular language could be selected because that was the some Google tool type in that portal. And when we had to give that advisory for the our region, and we had to use that local language. Another thing is, as far as this is asked, that how the feedback. Yes, one more thing is the farmers are much interested to the very precise information. Everything we give in just in large story of this advisory, then they are least interested. And one more thing that we must, if we are talking about another countries, what we should know about that, उनका एग्रो इकोसिस्टम क्या, what is their system, वहाँ क्या है, then their cropping system, what is the cropping system of the people have. So we have to make the advisory on that, their weather conditions, their climatic conditions, then their cropping system kya hai, then there we have to then the dissemination, different ways of dissemination. And for preparing this advisory, these portals could play a very big role, and we have to learn from the lacuna where we are facing now. I admit that India, where India were, I myself started with the 3 district advisory from the 3 districts. Now I'm issuing for the 3 district and 20 blocks. We have reached to the block level now, but there are still certain lacuna we are facing, that it has become very tedious task when we reach to the block level, because it is all manual, we have to do by hand. So if the database is there, then automation is there, then it will be very easy thing. So that's what I want to submit.
So I've got a quick question, Dr. Veena. So all this information is coming from either IMD or Agromet. So how are you getting this information? And I don't know. Most of you probably know it. So just for my knowledge sake, how do you get this data? Is it coming through an email, or you're looking up a database? You're looking at a portal?
So weather
How do you get
forecast,
this?
weather forecast is provided by the IMD. Then it is being
Right.
value added at our regional center. Wherever we are having
Okay.
state, it is value added there. From there, we get the weather data, weather forecast, as well as the past 5 days weather. And then on the basis of that weather forecast, we are having one team board of specialists, one entomologist, one pathologist, one soil scientist, one breeder. And then we frame the advisory on the basis of that forecast, that if the rain is going to happen in the next 5 days, then whether they should go for the sowing or whether they should do the harvesting. Means if there is rain, then they must they shift their produce to the safer places, or if it is going to rain, then they must postpone the irrigation, they must postpone the application of fertilizer or this insecticide, pesticide, because it will be washed away within the 8 hours, so there will be the no use of application of all such things. So we have to prepare the advisory on the basis of the weather forecast. And if there is the wind speed will be high, and then the direction of the wind, they should not this apply insecticide or the pesticide during this when there is the high speed wind speed, or in this direction they should not apply. So on the basis of that weather forecast, we give the recommendation to the farmers, and they are much interested in the, if they are given the small very precise, they are much interested. Means if they are getting the mobile SMS, but mobile SMS cannot do, but they are happy with that also with the but in also if we are giving the elaborated advisory, it should be to the very much to the point, that if there is a this much is the relative humidity, this is the temperature, so there is a chances of the outbreak of this disease, and so they may may monitor the crop, and if they find the disease at the threshold level, they can apply this insecticide or the pesticide whatsoever.
No. So it
To
seems like
summarize, it is a three-step process. First step is prepare and disseminate forecast at desired level. That is done by National Meteorological Hydrological Services. And the second stage is the intermediaries, which is primarily agriculture scientists located either at agriculture universities or some other institutions, who translate weather forecast into advisories based on for different crops and other settings. And the third step is dissemination. So,
right. So I've got one follow-up question for Dr. Veena. Suppose you didn't know what you know and your colleagues know. So to me, it seems like there's a lot of human knowledge that is coming into creating that advisory today, right? So if I take you out of the process, then this process will fall apart, because that weather rainfall data has no use for the farmer. Now, if we have to go forward and we have to scale it, because either we have to create a lot of Dr. Veena Sharma's, a lot of Pratima's, a lot of Ananta, which is one way of scaling it, or we scale it with technology, which basically gives you the information in a way that you can process more for more districts or more blocks at the same time. So I think there are two different types of scaling that we can take. So from your perspective, would you like that automation to help you get all that information that you already know in the knowledge base into a decision-making system, from where all you have to say is geographic coordinate or GPS coordinates, and say, okay, I want to create for this block, what is the suggested advisory? And then on top of it, you add your ideas or your inputs. Would that make your job a little more easier to scale in terms of more blocks and more districts?
Yes, sir, it will definitely make the job easy, because when I have to prepare advisory for the 20 blocks and 4 districts, the quality of the advisory will deteriorate. It doesn't, it is just a time bound process, sir, because we have to, the forecast must reach the farmer as we are giving the forecast for the next 5 days. For the very first day means tomorrow up to 8. If I give the advisory tomorrow, means if it is being delayed by the 8 hours 10 hours, then it will be of no use to the farmers. It is very much time bound. And if I am just manually I am doing framing the advisory for each block and 20 blocks, and then this district, then it will consume the very much time, and it will not reach to the farmer. This timeliness is very much important. It must reach the farmer in time. If it not reach farm in time, it will be of no use. Another thing is the accuracy. So accuracy requires the time. Scientist requires the time to frame the advisory. If he or she doesn't have the time, being hurry, he will not be able to make the advisory in a good way. So there must be some support from the automation, and then he or she may add something from his or her side, so the quality may be improved. Quality must not be
Compromised.
deteriorated. Yes, compromised. Yes, sir.
It's equality first, then as much speed as we can get.
Yes.
Avijit, just a quick comment. My question to Dr. Chattopadhyay and Dr. Rathore. I heard from RIMES that they are trying to make that kind of system, like automated agro advisory things. Do you have any information on that, or do you have any comments on that?
In fact,
yes, under the World Bank project, RIMES have been asked for doing that kind of things for Bangladesh. They did develop some automation procedure, and we had a discussion on that when I visited RIMES last time, and thereafter that has triggered, but nothing much concrete is yet done. It is in I would call it a developmental stage.
In fact, sir, yesterday I had a meeting with RIMES, with GS Innovation and Mitesh, because they are already, they have a system in Bhutan, ADSS system, and they are making for 2 blocks. They wanted my comments. I have gone through the pool there, but I said it is very infancy stage because a lot of things are not there. So they have agreed. Now, World Bank, Aarti was there in the meeting. Now it has been decided that they will be doing that ADSS more perfect in Bhutan. As far as Bangladesh, that is could not be materialized, but they want to make it in Bhutan like that.
We initiated long back in IMD, where a project was given to Triple IT Hyderabad, where Dr. Krishnamurthy, I gave about 1 crore rupees for development of automated government bulletins. He developed, but as from the user point of view, it was not very acceptable. TNAU also, Geeta Lakshmi and group, they are also doing similar work. So there are large number of people are doing that exercise, but again, the strength is on the ICT and the database as to how good data you are preparing. And when we say database, it is not only whether it need to be crop and different aspects of the crop and soil moisture, so on and so forth. So decision-making algorithm is secondary, but the data is primary.
Yes, yes, and I think so.
Abhijit, Abhijit, just 1 minute, because Nachiketa has given very pertinent question. Just to inform Nachiketa that RIMES is also doing for IMD what Dr. Saab has mentioned. So in IMD system is like that. That is also not perfect. What RIMES has done, they have done that forecast and observation data into from their server to the system, and also they made crop panel. Okay, they can add to the crop, so that could be accessed by the MFU from their center, and MFU is preparing the bulletin manually onto the going to the system based on their knowledge. Once they prepare, then that is visualized in the Megdut apps, mobile apps, which is done by Krida in Krida server. So this is a system, but RIMES still today, what Dr. Saab has mentioned, though they have done some, weather data, but crop data and also that algorithms, that is not perfect. But they said they will be doing all like that. Nachiketa, I was waiting for you actually, because you are one of the very resourceful person in that SAFOAM, and you have volunteered also, and I don't know what is the time in your area. We really appreciate the enthusiasm. So one of the point I will discuss with Dr. Saab also, that we can initiate. One is very demanding to all. I talk to Nepal, talk to Sri Lanka and others, that sub-seasonal forecast. Somehow they are getting 3-day forecast, like that with some accuracy, and they are doing. But sub-seasonal forecast, is very much demandable, and the position you are holding and you are volunteering. So how you can help from your position, at least in the beginning, to use the sub-seasonal forecast, not for all the countries, at least for 3-4 countries, how we can coordinate, how we can help. We want to know from you.
Thank you, Dr. Noor, for giving me that opportunity. I'm sorry, like it's kind of getting morning, and I changed my dress because my kids are ready to go outside and play. So quickly, yes, as you know, like we developed this S2S forecast system very close with Dr. Sahayan group, and not only from India, actually for that whole SAFOAM area, and also working with BMD closely to improve their capacity to make those forecasts by themselves instead of waiting to get the data from IRI or IMD. So I can obviously help on that sense, like do multiple trainings to every country med department, and having that system let them know how to make those forecasts, and also one thing like we assume from the subseasonal that whoever responsible for the seasonal forecast in the med department, they also understand the subseason. But my experience in last 2-3 years, I understand like the seasonal forecast are often confused with the seasonal forecast and subseasonal forecast in terms of science and also in terms of the representation. For example, in seasonal forecast, we give one value for all season or three probability for all season, but it's not something like in subseasonal scale we are required for. Like for example, we need when the rain will start. We need when the rain will stop. That kind of information is really important for the subseason. But if you look all over the GPCs, they make a subseasonal forecast in terms of a seasonal fashion, like 3 category forecast or this kind of things. So, like in short, like I want to make a tailored product which actually required for the subseasonal scale, and based on the state of art S2S models, and which is really like we have a real-time forecast now, and also like we can actually use IMD's CFS model and also IMD's analysis, which is IMDAA, which is available for the SAFOAM, and that can be a really good data to verify the ground truth. Because, for example, a country like Nepal, we don't have a much data to verify those kind of forecast or calibrate those models. So I think like we can actually use that like the excellent initiative by the Minister of Earth Science, IMDA, and all those S2S model. I can obviously help to set up those kind of system online. Obviously, you can travel right now for the pandemic, but when it will on, if some point we can get the money for my travel and things, I can happily to be that. And as you know, Dr. Chattopadhyay, like we had a project in Bangladesh. So in any case, I have to travel Bangladesh a lot. So I can use that money to stay some days in Sri Lanka or Nepal or somewhere to set up those things. And also another thing I want to mention, and I also like talk with Dr. Srini last week, and he also asked me the same thing. And I thought the best will be like IMD and BMD if they can take the initiative and make the training, and I can support them, because it should be very standalone on that region instead of depending on the US or UK or other countries. Like because UK Met Office also having the same kind of project right nowadays, as you know, UK Met have WISER and ARC project over Asia. But I want to make that things from the IMD and the BMD also, because BMD also kind of that par to give that those kind of next generation training. So in that sense, I can help as a TOT, like I can train the BMD and IMD, and after that they can help and they can train the other med department. So that kind of my submission. No.
You can build a concept paper onto that, how
Yes.
this can be done in SAFOAM, right? So
Yes.
that we can, in the roadmap, we can put it into that, okay?
Yes.
Then we'll explore how the things can be done, right?
Yeah.
Yes, obviously.
I've got one quick question, Navanshu. Is the kind of structure of IMD, BMD, the structure that we have, Bangladesh kind of seems like we've followed the Indian process, but is that the same in every other country? Can we assume that they will follow the similar structure, or they have similar structure?
Similar structure means what sense?
Like IMD, so IMD has kind of gives us an agromet, and but BMD has similar kind of, they are pursuing the similar kind of structure.
No, it's not similar. Actually, it depends. In this agromet service, this Apex system is in IMD. But if you go to Bangladesh, Apex system in Ministry of Agriculture. Okay,
right.
So the different countries have different kind of strategies, but ultimately the total system, how it is working, it is almost similar. Okay,
right.
I mean, even also in BMD, the subseasonal forecast, what Nachikata is mentioned, so he is developing, then IRI also then I mean, all are developing, but ultimately, even in though India is applying subseasonal forecast, but still Bangladesh is not in application mode.
Right. I'm just thinking from the scale perspective of it, that should we should we treat these agencies as IMD and BMDs as data providers, right? Because at the end of the day, they're just generating the data. And
Abhijit, sorry, I don't think so. They are not that providing the data. The data should be provided by the each country. But what BMD and IMD can help them to get to know the technology, how to make the data. So, for example,
so
yeah, go ahead.
So I'm assuming IMD is the country, because IMD is providing the data for India, right? So I'm not kind of differentiating the country from the agency, because I'm assuming that India has given the kind of the job to IMD to create that rainfall data. So once they create that data, Agromet takes that data, and then basically their job is to convert that into advisory that then go down the channel to the farmers, to the other people who can use it. So just for the kind of, I'm just want to make sure the vocabulary is understood. My vocabulary could be very different than the vocabularies you use on the field. So I want to kind of make sure when I use services, I didn't mean services as in giving services, but I'm talking about capacity building services, which is also a service in our world. I just want to make sure the vocabulary is the vocabulary that I'm using, and I'm going to learn. I'm learning in this process. I'm going to try to use the same vocabularies as I learn that is being used, so there is no miscommunication there. So if I'm assuming that IMD is the generator of that primary data, or the country is the generator of the data, then they are not necessarily responsible for how that data gets transferred into advisory and then goes to the farmer. I don't think IMD is going to be directly responsible for that ever. Mr. Sanjay, you have a suggestion? No, I guess not. So that being said, so similarly, Sri Lanka will have to have somebody. It could be their own, or they would get it from private agencies.
Abhijit, let me tell you that the National Meteorological and Hydrological Service is the agency who is mandated to issue weather forecast or climate forecast and weather data and so on and so forth.
Right.
Ultimately, whosoever is the intermediary, the onus lies on this agency regarding the skill of the forecast. They are accountable for that.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's what I was trying to get to. Yes,
they are accountable. As far as India is concerned, IMD, the system, the manner in which we have developed is we have integrated the service under one umbrella, wherein IMD is at the apex, and then the State Agriculture University, the agriculture players, they play their role, but they're accountable to IMD because IMD is financing them, which is not the case in other countries.
Right.
So therefore, there is some similarity, some dissimilarity.
Yeah, and that's what I was kind of trying to get to, that if we have to, suppose that variable is not known, how those countries are going to structure. So should we go after the role or go after the agency for kind of training the trainer? That I'm kind of thinking in my head how to kind of scale the model that we have used in India. If the structure is not same, then how do we scale it in other countries? Dr. Rathore, you're on mute, Dr. Rathore.
Okay.
Yeah.
Actually, agencies are important, definitely, because in the setup of organogram, we have to deal with them, but we will target function.
Right, that's it. That's what
we'll target function, and whomsoever discharge that function, we will address him or that agency accordingly. That is one thing. Right. I just wanted to make a very quick remark before I forget to Nachi's subseasonal forecast. I mean, they are doing good work, and now, fortunately or unfortunately, Sahai is also retiring 31st of March, and we had a discussion with him, and he is also coming to for the more creative engagement. Of course, he will get something, but he is also with us to that extent. So, good resource again. But what the new product, Nachi, you can give is in the subseasonal scale is for precipitation during monsoon for different regional scales. What is the sowing rate? And just think of it. You can accumulate rainfall, and then one episode when it cross the threshold of the sowing requirement for, which is different for different crops and different soil conditions. Think of that is available with CRIDA, I think, or IMD also. So those thresholds are available, and so you can do massaging of that model output in that form to generate that kind of product. That will be very useful. Over.
Actually, sir, I was discussing, I was telling the same thing, thinking that whatever you rightly mentioned about the sowing rains, we have to pick up some of the very important issues, just like in Bangladesh flash flood. If you can give 15 days before, I think that makes a lot of sense. Even in Bhutan, in northern part, there is no observatories, okay, though you cannot calibrate. But in northern part, there is a lot of problem in the flood and glaciers, okay. So that is why we will see that, I mean, what is very much important for the agriculture which could not be done, how subseasonal forecast can do, I mean, with some limitations, right? That makes a lot of sense to that. And then SAFOAM will be the reality. You know, if subseasonal forecast, one or two issue, if you put it into all the 8 countries and taking the point, that could make a lot of sense. That's why I was talking to you that, I mean, beginning we may start with thinking of that how subseasonal forecast, I mean, what Atul Sahab has mentioned we can do, because this is in very mature stage in India and your part also. Over to you.
So yeah, just thank you for that comments. Just let you know, like, although we have a state-of-art models, but again, each model has a biases. So what IMD is preparing right now, and when I understand from Sahai sir and group, that they are not actually correcting those model in terms of statistical post-processing. They're just correcting SST and run again time. So that could be a value added from my side first. Second thing is, we should also understand the limitation of those models, because obviously there's the global models. So the limitation is, for example, Navangshuda, you said about flash flood. We can't give the flash flood forecast 15 days ahead. What we could expect a wet spell, and then we can actually merge with the daily forecast. It's like you can use a subseasonal forecast next 15 days as an outlook, and then look over the daily forecast. And we did that same thing with BMD for the cyclone cases. Like, for example, if we get some kind of big probability of rainfall over the northern Bay of Bengal, we kind of aware, like, we let that information goes to BMD, and BMD is aware, and BMD running WRF every day, and now they're watching that system. So we can make that kind of seamless thing. And just to one thing before I need to sign off, because as you know, Dr. Rathore and Chattopadhyay will have a SASCOF in end of this month, and Srini is also like part of SAFOAM. So I think, like, for this SASCOF, can you have a 1 day for SAFOAM? Because we always have a 1 day from the users, the last day of the SASCOF. But it will be great if we just, kind of pitch that idea, and then, just kind of a kind of advertisement, and also like how the SAFOAM country could get those information which is going to submit in the SASCOF.
That's a great idea. I'll talk to Rathore Sahab and we'll definitely include. Slowly we have to come to this kind of, forum or like that. Okay. People should know that these things are happening. Right. This is a wonderful, approach. Right.
And Nachiketa, before you drop off, I just wanted to kind of you are in the States, right?
Yeah,
okay.
In New York.
New York. Okay, so you're on Eastern time. So probably I would reach out to you, because I wanted to kind of little bit understand the models, and because these are global models, this would require localization and tweaking, and how easy or difficult that is. But I think it's a conversation we can have offline.
Sure. I'll reach out to you.
Perfect. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you, everybody, and sorry for I need to go sign off. It's a Saturday.
Yeah.
So
I think most of us are now to go, and let Abhijit conclude.
Yeah. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank
you.
You
can conclude now. Yeah.
So I think it's a good conversation. I wanted to kind of reiterate the framework that we kind of, at least visually. So we have ICT, under which we're going to go through the 3 processes that have been outlined by Dr. Rathore, which is data. Data is the foundation of everything. I think there's a lot of data out there. primarily using the rainfall data heavily. I'm sure there is some crop data somewhere as well, because I've seen a lot of researches and I've read some papers where they have used a lot of this crop data. And then the application aspect of it, and then the dissemination. And my way of thinking of it is I always think of the dissemination first, and then because that helps me to understand what content user really needs, then work back to figure what data I need to create that content. So one of the things that I would highly like to kind of suggest to the entire group, if you guys can write down from your perspective, what are the top 3 things that farmer really needs? This is good for individually, but as a group, we will then poll and see how many people think alike. What are the top 3 things? It's kind of validation in a way. Given the absence of more data, that is the only way we can validate. What are the top 3 things in terms of content that farmers need? And some of it may be obvious, but let's kind of keep it aside and say, look, what I know is this. Let me see what the group knows, right? And then I will collate it and then circulate back, suggesting what are the top 3 things and what's the votes look like. That way we can at least have some semblance of what content we should target, because I think that is very, very important. Once we know that, then we're going to work back to see suggestions like Dr. Rathore made of a radio station, which could be e-radio, could be also used to use the traditional airwaves, which is, I think, 191 of them that exist in India and other countries probably, to kind of disseminate that information. And once we have figured that, then we look at the data that we need, and I'm going to have a conversation with you individually for folks who have specific knowledge about particular data sets, but also kind of try to bring together how these data sets can actually help build those content. And then we can talk about automation. I think automation is the last piece of it. AI and ML is still far out. So I don't think we need to worry about that at this point in time. But if we could start with the top 3 content requirements by the, I think there are 2 types of customers that I see. One is the agromet services themselves, and then the advisory that they make for the farmer. So I would like the agromet services folks to think from the perspective, what are the top 3 things that farmer would like to know, and how would they like to know so they can use it? Veena mentioned about that they don't want history paper, they want crisp anecdotes, because they can use it. It has to be actionable at the end of the day. So think from that perspective, and with that, I would like to kind of leave it to any other final comments anybody has. So it seems like everybody is content with the conversation today. So thank you for all of your time, and we'll look forward to continued discussion on this subject. But if you could, I like to put ETAs. So if you could send me those top 3 things over email in next 48 hours. So right now my time is 6:27 a.m. So I would like to see it by Monday, 6:27 a.m. That would be very helpful.
Sure, you'll get it.
Perfect. Thank you. And thank you all for your time, and have a great evening.
Thank you very much. Same to you, and
that should be sent to your sleeping time.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you, Dr. Thank you, Dr. Nabanshu.
Yeah, thank you, Chakravarti sir.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Vash Pandey.
Hi, Ananto. Hi, Beena. Hi, Pratima.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Thank you, Ananta. Thank you.
Sir.
Hi, Vanjari sir.
Thank you, Dr. Rathod. It's already left. Okay, bye, Nabanshu.
Okay, bye. Bye.